Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League. It's a really, really exciting episode because we have not just a lot to talk about as we head into the, enforced break, the mandatory break in the LCS schedule, but we also have two wonderful guests on the show, one of whom will most likely be here for the last time ever as he says goodbye to all of you. And
That's
that
what you're
person's
excited
name
about?
is Raz. He doesn't know it yet, but he's exiting the League of
What?
Legends scene after this show. Sorry, Raz, you will be canceled on the show, and you'll find out by the third call. No.
Oh, shit.
We do have Raz here. Raz, how's it going?
I'm good. It's been a long time. I actually don't remember the last time I was on the show. And it's mostly because, Caster's Couch was literally at the exact same time frame, so it was really hard for me to find time to be here. But then we moved up, so now we start at basically noon or 1 p.m. depending. So it's nice to be back.
And next up is Revenge, who has recently announced his retirement, much to my dismay and the dismay of many people who rooted for him. Revenge, how have things gone for you since your announcement?
Honestly, things have been going pretty good. I kind of made the decision back in November, so I've already been preparing for what's next for the last 4 months, pretty much. So in a way, I announced it and I had already processed my decision by now. But yeah, I get that I didn't make it very public, so now I'm kind of reprocessing the whole thing again.
Yeah, now you have to deal with everybody reacting to it.
Yeah.
Well, I skipped through my co-host here, but also Cubby joining us as always as the co-host. Cubby, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's good to be back, and I wish that we'd, have Revenge join us under more fun circumstances. But I know that last night also, said bye to Kelsey as well, who's heading off to, not California. So
But Kelsey's
I know that
she's exiting esports, right?
not exiting esports, but just relocating for the moment.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see Kelsey around. I do wonder how much if we'll ever hear from Revenge again after this episode of Hotline League. What did you get up to this past week, Cubby?
Well, we threw a fun little get together last night, which I'm still somewhat recovering from. It was kind of fun. I ended up having a friend that I worked a summer camp for 3 summers. And this friend from the summer camp was able to join us to meet all the gaming friends, which was
nice.
a kind of a wild worlds collide. But besides that, honestly, pretty quiet. I had a busy week of challenges this week, and the challenge has been somewhat interesting so far. So it's been definitely a lot of the teams are everywhere. So some of the teams are starting to figure out. So that was fun. But it was mostly work for me this week.
Yeah.
I didn't get to go anywhere nearly as cool as Denver, Travis. That's for the head honchos of TGI here.
Yeah, true. No, so I was playing hooky from LCS this weekend. I'm sorry to anybody who takes issue with that, but I don't care about how you feel. I did spend today catching back up, but I was at DreamHack out there doing some stuff, some Magic the Gathering stuff, but also just some good conversations about the future, hopefully, with some people I was talking out there. So I was in Denver, saw some snow. It snowed while I was out there, which was really nice. I haven't seen snow in a long time, or I certainly haven't seen it snow for a while. And I just had a really good time. So thanks to the folks who did come up to me and say hi there. And I also got a tweet today. I boarded the plane, and I had a tweet come up to me that was like, "Hey, I was the guy that was in the airport near you, and I was doing a triple take. And could I say hi to you whenever you get off your plane?" So then I waited until they, I exited first class and then had to wait for them. No, I'm just kidding. It was not fun first.
First class,
But
wow.
yeah, that was kind of a fun thing. So met a lot of cool people, many of whom watch Hotline League or watch. Actually, one of my favorite things to do at these things, I saw a guy that was working one of the Magic booths and was wearing a Cloud9 jacket. And anytime I see any of these people, I go up to them and I say hey, what teams are you a fan of for Cloud9 or Team Liquid or whatever? And when they say League, I go, do you still watch? And when they don't, I ask them why. And you always get very different answers these days. So, but that's enough of me rambling. I do want to shout out our sponsor for this episode, which is Twitch and YouTube. All of you are doing a great job of supporting us, so please continue to provide your Prime subs and any other kind of support. Actually, I had a person who sent $50 and said, Cubby spoke at my college club, and it was really inspiring. And so they sent me money. So thank you, Cubby, for whatever you said to this college club. I don't know.
I don't get a
wrong
vid.
person money. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
What the fuck
It
is
worked out
that?
really well.
Thank you, Cubby. Here you go, Travis.
I have if anyone ever reaches out, I do try and talk to people that are in school. So thank you. I'm glad that it wasn't a waste of time. That was pretty funny though.
Their message was, I could read it. It says, from Eric, big thanks to Cubby, a great co-host, taking some time today to offer advice on LOL clubs at my college. Been a long-time listener, and about time I gave something back. Love the show and your content.
Yeah.
We need to get you out to more colleges, Cubby. It's
maybe this is how this is going to be the new sponsor of
yes,
TGI.
Exactly. I need to financially recover for losing all Alienware. And
Cubby, we're about to whore you out to every college in the country. Get ready. Pimp Travis.
That's how I gotta make my dollars now. All right, I'm just pimping Cubby out to college.
Some people, they've always said that collegiate could be the savior of league. Maybe it could be the savior of this show too.
True.
Yeah.
Get them out there.
All right. Well, we have some stuff to talk about. We will actually. Well, one, I want to ask Revenge. Have you been following LCS at all this split?
Yeah, actually, I have.
Okay.
I have. I've been, I've definitely been watching C9's downfall. I've been watching. I've also been watching just how close the league has been. I think it's actually been a pretty interesting split. I wasn't watching week 1, but then I kind of started to get into it week 2, and I think it just started getting really interesting. So I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that this has been a really fascinating season, and I think the teams are all really close, and you're seeing some interesting stories, right? Like 100 Thieves popping up currently in sole possession of second place, which I don't think was Cubby. I forget, we talked about this I think in the last episode, but how did you have them power ranked?
8th.
Wow.
Yeah, they're currently
over
second.
Over Shopify and IMT and
I had Shopify 5, Dig 6, IMT 7.
Shopify 5. That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's crazy.
I mean, you say it crazy, but they are currently tied. Well, they're tied for 7th, but they're not like they're one game behind 4th place teams, right? Like it's not...
okay. I'm talking. Okay, I mean, I understand the reality now, but I'm talking about like power ranking, like before the season begins. I think that's crazy. That's all I'll say. I think that's crazy.
Okay.
So you want to know what mine was?
Yeah.
What?
I had it on broadcast too. I was the one that had Shopify the highest. I had those brothers at 4th.
Who is giving you guys so much copium? Who is giving you guys so much copium from that roster? Actually,
it wasn't even cope. I just thought like nearly every team had downgraded, or when they did upgrade, specifically IMT, I didn't think it was gonna be enough. So I was like, ugh.
Well,
I just thought the league got weaker,
them, right? Or IMT's tied with them, right?
Yeah.
IMT
so
is
like
tied with them, yes.
Yeah, so like at the moment the standings are a little bit weird just because there's so little teams.
Let me pull it up. Who's 8th?
They're tied
the crew
for 7th.
Oh, they're tied. Okay,
they're
tied for
boys,
7th.
yeah.
I guess it's tied for 7th, not tied for 8th. I see.
So anyway, we will talk about all of that. Especially, I was thinking about this beforehand, where I was like, man, if I was Revenge and I was like, fuck it, I'm done with LCS. There's a very good chance I could just be like, I think I would always come back. Like if next year, for instance, I announced that I was going to stop covering League, I would probably take a split off and just be like, I'm not going to think about it for like 4 months, and then I would come back and start watching in summer. But it's good to hear that you took 1 week off and then you came back, especially because it'll allow you to talk a little bit about what's been going on over the course of this. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the break. Obviously, we'll talk about Revenge. I think this is, folks, I don't remember the last time we had a player that was coming on the show who has no longer any bridges that they need to remain unburned. So you can call in with your just very frank questions, and there's no reason for Revenge not to answer them. So please be candid in your questions or your takes, and you'll get some good stuff here.
If you don't feel spicy, yeah, you should take it like a tequila shot.
Yeah.
Just get
No,
the blood flowing.
I definitely have some stuff on my mind that I'll say that I think people should hear as fans, you know, because like I was a fan too, you know, like there's some stuff I know that like I wouldn't want to just like randomly say because like while yeah I don't care, like there's no one in esports right now. Well, there's only like very few people actually, like yeah, I won't mention, but there's very few people that I feel like I do care about my professional relationship with, because it's not like I'm taking them with me to school or anything like that. But you know, like some people wrote me letters of recommendation to some of the universities I'm actually applying to as a transfer, so I would never burn bridges with them, and I have no bridges to burn with them. But there's definitely like, you know, I do care about my friendships with some people, but not really, you know. I mean like not to the point where it's like I don't know how to, I don't want to give examples, but it's just
You're on the way out. You can afford to be
Yeah.
honest now. Is where you're at. If you
sure,
might be.
sure, we'll leave it
Yeah.
at that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We'll leave it
Yep,
at
you
that.
got a new life ahead of you, so
Yeah.
fuck that old life.
Yeah,
I guess so.
I am very I'm just very excited for this episode. I feel like people could get some kind of stuff in. I think honestly we don't have too much else to talk about. I think it's worth talking about the fact that we're going into a 2-week break. I think Mark said in his announcement that there was going to be stuff that was going to be filling the gap. We don't know what that is yet, right? Did I miss some announcement while I was in Denver?
No.
Great.
You might have to, you know, shake the old tree that used to sit here, you know.
I mean, I don't care. Like, I don't think that there is. I don't think that it's not like I need to like leak what's planned. Like, my frustration is that we are 5 days out from Saturday, right? And there's just no explanation on what is happening during these like 2 weeks.
I mean, if Raz is on his way out too, he should be able to tell us everything, no?
I mean, I know. I mean, first of all, that's not happening. But second of all, I mean, in terms of like content, pros came out. I know there's gonna be a few pieces of content from ourselves that will be coming out. I think God, I don't know. I don't remember what's in and not in the Mark Z update videos. So, like, there should be content, but I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah, I think
promotion of
they
that
they
content
said
is
something
gonna be a
very
question
vague
mark.
about we're going to try to figure out something to fill the break with, and then I had expected them to announce it this weekend on the LCS, and it's a little disappointing because if you want to maintain that momentum, and I think they have a lot of momentum. I think LCS is in many ways the most fun it's been to watch in many years. They've made so many good changes. We have all the new champ stuff and like the interesting things that we can talk about on this episode in terms of, you know, oh, hey, everybody thought that this champ was going to suck, and now we're seeing it played in the LCS, or there's just a lot of great storylines there, and I just want that momentum to continue, so I'm a little disappointed that all of this is happening. So
yeah, what I'll say is that, like, I'm sure something will happen. The only criticism I'd give is, like, probably promotion of it if it's not out immediately, like, day one. Because it's just one day out of the week, so it sucks that we're not hearing it right out the get-go, because that's just a criticism you can put on like promoting it as best you possibly can.
Sure.
But I'm sure something will come out.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we get into calls, I do want all three of us to be able to just berate Revenge with some questions. First off, Revenge, do you want to give like the very brief explanation of why you decided to step away and what your plans are for those that did not get a chance to read your Twitter post?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just like kind of go through just what I said in the Twitter post. So if you guys have more questions, then you could ask it. But basically, I didn't really find a team in November. EG exploded during the offseason. I pretty much knew halfway through my split on EG, even when we were first place in the regular season, that EG was like not like they were going to slash budgets like crazy the next year, and it was like very low chance that they would be like a competitive team in the LCS. So I already knew that like everything that I was doing that for the split was going to be like in preparation for me to be a free agent that offseason. So I was very prepared to be a free agent that offseason. Didn't find a team. I mean, salaries were cut like crazy, but yeah, I mean, I was trying to join any team really. Like I was open to joining any team at some point, but didn't work out. And then I started applying to. Well, I contacted the school I was going to, my old university, reconnected with like my old professors and stuff, and decided that, you know, things look a lot more like the timing felt right, and everything just was really, you know, I can get more into that with the questions you guys might ask me, but everything really was syncing up for me to kind of go back to university and kind of start that path again. And I guess, you know, the LCS downsized, the salaries were downsizing. I really thought about it. I was thinking about my future, and it just felt like, okay, now it's time for me to retire.
Yeah.
I can't wait a year of my life and potentially not even join a team. And if I do join a team, get paid the salaries that I would be projected to be paid. It just doesn't align with the goals I set for myself when I entered esports. And yeah, that's the gist of it.
Yeah, I am pretty worried because I not only am I disappointed that you left, but I just worry that, look, in the past when teams decided, oh, we're going to try a rookie, or we're going to try, you know, bring a player over from another region, it made sense oftentimes for players like yourself to sit on the sidelines or maybe go down to compete in NACL. You know, and we're not talking about like a long time ago. We're talking about like a year ago, right? It made sense for a lot of players to do that stuff. I worry how many players are going to just say, fuck it, I'm out. You know, like how if the decreasing salaries, the lack of a strong tier 2 system, if all that stuff is just going to create even more churn of really great players. We now have, 8 teams instead of 10. So I don't know. I don't know if you think your situation is unique, or if you think we'll see more of this type of stuff going forward.
I mean, I think, truthfully, I think players should think about what I've done more, but I know it's scary for a lot of people because, I mean, okay, let me preface this. Like, I think if you got into LCS, the work and dedication that you put in, and the level that you have to be at to play consistently in the LCS is difficult. It's an achievement, and I think that you can carry it in your life to do other things, but a lot of players don't have that confidence, and so they're scared, and they feel like they can only do League. And so I do think that a lot of players will still, you know, try the tier 2 system or try waiting, but I mean, I think that it just doesn't make much sense if you're not really being secured in any way in your life by LCS anymore, if the salaries are as low as they're projecting to be every single year. Before, if you were just waiting or you were grinding for this and you dropped high school for this, for example, you would project yourself to earn enough money doing this for 5-6 years to prepare yourself for life. So maybe you have time to decide what you want to do afterward, or maybe you don't have to necessarily do something so crazy afterward. You know, you could invest and, you know, other stuff, right? And I mean, the future is so like different. It's going to be so different for everybody, right? But bottom line, with how much you sacrifice as a player for LCS, you should be getting paid enough to give yourself enough time and set your future for a very longer period of time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And also, I will say right off the get-go, the job security part is the most important part to me, where it's like you want to, the fear of not even knowing after you have a really good split if you're even gonna get a job next year is fucking ridiculous. This offseason I thought was the most egregious, where we had, like, in terms of AD carries, I thought we had like some of the best AD carries that were basically on the bench. So like, I mean, I even kind of list them out, but like I can just rattle them off. Like Unforgiven, no team. Sven, no team. Stixay, no team. All of them really fucking good splits as AD carries, and they don't get a callback. And even just asking around, like, they could have done minimum. Like Stixay would have done minimum. Like a lot of those players would have done minimum based off of like the current market. But how do we go through that year and they don't get a callback on it for any team? Like I can understand like a player, like a good example would be Double Lift, where it's like, okay, if there's like, I want to be on a winning team, I want to be on a top team, And if I don't know what my roster is going to be, then I'm probably going to go back to streaming or something. These players they commit their entire lives to playing professionally. And then even going to the top lane list, like Revenge is a player that had, in my opinion, the best split in his career, or the best year in his career. He was on a team that was a winning team finally. Like this brother hung on to Immortals for God knows what reason. Like, I was gonna say, I don't know why you did it.
Contractual obligations, I imagine.
I mean, honestly, like, okay, like I could talk about that too, because there's kind of a lot of misconceptions. Even me joining EG, like there's this reason why I didn't like IMT in the split I was on EG. Like I'm not the type of person to like hold resentment or grudges, but what they did to me in off season was so dirty. Like it was so disturbing, honestly. I mean, me joining EG was not guaranteed. I was on the verge of not joining EG. I mean, EG was going to actually get Tenacity. It was a very low chance actually comparing to Tenacity. I'm pretty sure they were like 90% wanting to get Tenacity and then ended up getting me because they didn't, because he was just being too much of a problem in the offseason with his decision. So they didn't even want me, for one, and I knew that. So I knew I had a lot to prove even joining EG. However, IMT was aware that I was negotiating with EG. It was with their consent. However, they said to me, okay, we still want you as our top laner. We're not going to get a different top laner, but you need to make your decision soon. They gave me like 2 or 3 weeks. And then literally out of nowhere one day, they just called me and they're like, yeah, we're going with a different top laner who's a better fit for our team. And they got Solo. And I'm pretty sure IMT's motto as a team is to go 10th and lose anyway, so it made sense. And I don't understand. Like, they just out of nowhere just signed someone else and told me to basically, I have to move out in a month, and I didn't even have a team. Like, I didn't even have a team to go to. And then I ended up luckily joining EG because Tenacity didn't want to play professionally, essentially, or didn't like his salary, whatever it was. I don't really know. And yeah, that was like, and on top of that, by the way, EG was like a great org, and that split, they like completely downsized. They downsized their coaching staff, they downsized the entire org. It's as if I went from a bottom team to a bottom team anyway. But I had way better teammates, so we made it work. That's like kind of what happened that offseason. That's just like one way I'm gonna preface it. So, and okay, like I'm sorry, like no Gigaflame to Solo, but he was not performing well in Spring Split. Solo at one point was an amazing top laner. Okay, like on the FlyQuest days 2020, he took that team to Worlds pretty much single-handedly. He was fucking insane. But if you look at his performance in Spring Split and you look at my performance in Spring Split in scrims and on stage, and if you make the decision to get Solo instead, that is why you are a bottom team. That is why you should not run this org, okay? Like, that's just honest the decision, If you are willing to make me teamless to sign someone else, given how they played that split and how I played that split, you don't understand the game and you have no idea how to build a team. Like, that's just my take. And that's objectively true. Not even me, like, being salty or anything. That's just objectively true. So, yeah.
Well, if you all enjoyed that, that's just a preview of how Revenge is willing to answer your questions as you call in. There's a lot to dig into here, obviously, and I think we could spend the entire 2 hours just quizzing Revenge on stuff, but that's not what the show is. The show is obviously a show where all of you get a chance to call in with your questions and with your takes. So, Cubby, do you want to do the spiel?
Yeah. So if you go type exclamation mark Discord in the chat, or go to discord.gg/Travis, correct?
Yes.
Travis.
Discord.gg/Travis. Yes. Sorry.
See, last time you told me I had to get it this time.
No, you did it. But then you asked correct. I was reading Twitch chat as everybody's.
All right. Well, I don't have to check now. I got it right.
Yeah.
You guys can drop your takes at me, just at Cubby in Discord. I will pull the good ones in the waiting room, and then I'll drop in. We'll have you get on the show, and you guys can talk to Revenge, Raz, and the rest of us. And so far, good. I've like pulled some, but there's probably still a couple takes left to pull. And anything that is actually like pretty tied to Revenge or Raz, I'm much more likely to pull. So
and it looks like you've already pulled a bunch, so we should be.
I pulled a couple.
That there's still space, maybe, but. Just people need to be be aware that we've got some stuff in here. So, and we will be trying to move through the takes quickly because it's already 7:40, and I'm sure we can maybe go a little bit over time, but I don't want to turn this into a 3-hour show. So, with that being said, if you are a sub, first off, thank you for being a sub. You can get access to the sub topics chat and maybe put your takes in there. And then once you do, we just really appreciate that support. So thank you. I think we can go grab the first caller if we're ready.
Yep.
And as we do that, I do want to shout out some subs. Speaking of subs, Iron Maiden, Director Donut gifted a sub. Lit Drummer Boy, Big Hearty Radish, Swede gifted a sub to Fudgenator, Sandy Toes, Frosty, Cheechmeister, ZePaladin, and then over on YouTube, I think I shouted him out, but 504 Caesar with the $20 super chat. Thank you, super chat. Thank you to YouTube for super chats and becoming members, and thank you over on Twitch for those subs. Talkin' Tots with the Prime. We got our first caller here. Caller, what's your name and where are you from?
Hi, my name is Stevenator, and I am from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Nice. And what is your take?
My take is that for the first time since becoming the sole starting jungler for C9 back in 2020, Blaber is not a top 3 jungler in the league right now.
All right. What makes you say this? Besides the record?
I think it's less of a dig at Blaber in particular. I mean, he's definitely had some of like boneheaded plays, like the one on Maokai where they tried to dive bot and just completely basically threw the game at 7 minutes. But I think for the most part, it's the fact that Inspired looks really, really great. I'm glad to see him back in the LCS. River, at this point, I'm convinced is like a perennial top 5 player in the LCS with how he performs on every team he's been on. And I actually have been super, super impressed with XU so far.
Yeah.
Sorry, my headset died, and I just heard at the end the XU part. I don't know if what you said before that.
Go, guys.
I don't know if you remember. Sorry, I just heard XU's having a great split, but I didn't hear.
But you heard the initial take, right?
Yes, I heard the initial take. Yes, my headset literally
that's mostly
died,
that's mostly it, right? Is that the other players are competing and sort of outperforming Blaber.
Yeah, his top 3 junglers so far: Inspired, River, and XU is what he said.
Inspired, River, and XU.
Yeah.
Like, I can start by saying I disagree with the XU point, but I do think that I would Inspired River for sure are top 2, like guaranteed. I was actually this morning thinking about it a bit much, and I was actually going through some VODs, and I think I had Umpty there. For me, it's either between Umpty or Blaber. Umpty's a weird case. Even like the best example is that literally was the last game where he flashed over the Rift Herald pit, basically gets Rumble to commit to getting Krugs, and then it would be they would be ahead if he ended up getting Raptors, but he ended up getting killed on Raptors, which should be seen. Like, they should know that he's gonna get contested on that through mid. And then so that was a weird mistake, but then he was a fucking goat and then decided to go back bot side where he had push and do it again. So I think Umpty, the one thing that really impressed me with Umpty was actually the Contracts Graves game where he was pushed off camps, was pretty far behind, but I thought recovered incredibly well by just trading sides. And I think Blaber can definitely make a case of being third of top 3, but at the moment I'm undecided between. I'll probably edge Umpty in right now, but it's between Blaber and Umpty.
What do you think of Revenge for the last couple of weeks you've been watching?
I mean, I agree with Raz about River and Inspired being top 2. I don't know which one's first or second. I don't think Inspired's necessarily been insanely 1v9. I think he's doing good, but not he's definitely not. I think he could still come into form, and I expect him to see him become the best jungler by the end of the split for sure over River. But he's definitely top 2. And then River's doing solid, and I don't know, for 3 I would personally pick between Contracts or Blaber. I mean, I think Contracts is still gets underrated, and I know he does a lot for that team. I know they're struggling, but I think he's a solid player. And I mean, I'm not, I think XU's having a decent split for his rookie split, but he's not in the discussion for top 3 at all. I think that's delusional. But I do think, he can make it there if he keeps playing. I mean, it's a good start. It's a solid start for his rookie year. But I mean, top 3 is and then Umpty's been way too inconsistent for my eye. I don't know. I don't know what I'm sure I know he had like a good Xin game, but he's been, I think, more inconsistent than Blaber. But yeah, that's what I would say. I would say it's like, for me, Inspired, River, and I would just put contracts.
I
That's
would say the same. Like contracts for me was the same because there are a few games where like he had a Viego game where he invaded red side jungle and like died, and there was a team fight where he like I actually just need to be able to say the game specifically just to make it easier for people to follow. But like in terms of like consistency, I've had problems with his consistency too. I think his week 1 was great, but I think that's a problem with most of the junglers. That's what's making like a top 3 chart pretty difficult for me, because I think from 3 to 3 onwards, you're picking and choosing based on consistency for me.
I think my tiebreaker honestly might be mids too, because I actually still think that like this split JoJo has still been stronger than Palafox and APA. And like because I'm kind of with you guys, like I don't really know who I'd pick next, and a lot of like my issues with some of the games like I've seen from Blaber this split are like I don't think him being like up a bunch of CS as rel like is just Blaber. I think that's like a team direction thing. Like I think the rel game, the one versus IMT for me was like the worst when he was just like opting into farming and like they were just dropping sides to like group in an Ivern comp. Like I think the direction for C9 has just been kind of poor in some of those
JoJo
moments.
griefed that game. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like
Was
seriously.
that the top lane one?
No, like everyone blames Blaber for that game, but like, bro, like, oh, that's so triggering. Like, JoJo just didn't flash a Bard ult, and they literally lost all tempo on the map, and their comp was dog shit. That had like
Yeah.
so little to do with Blaber.
I
Yeah.
mean, I like it, but that's like also my point. Like, I think that like that map setup, like when I look at that draft, I want Rel to do Raptors, Red Krugs, and then dive bot. And like that isn't something like I see C9 do enough. And then like that map ends up being more neutral than the state that it should be in. Also, in that situation, like I know that like JoJo is the one that like didn't flash and lost all tempo, but also like in the VOD around I think it was 3rd or 4th Drake, they stopped seesawing the map and they opted into like an early ARAM where they didn't have any sides prioed against Ivern. And that like you're just kind of asking, especially with the comp that you have, to like get chunked out and be in a really bad
But that
spot.
was because, so that's why I said the comp was dog shit, because C9's bot lane 5-plated enemy bot. Like, yet, like, to say they could have dove is like, it's not just Blaber's decision, Like,
Yeah.
it's how bot lane plays the waves too. And bot lane was playing that game to just, like, they were probably laning in a way that was like the enemy team was just basing. They were not staying under turret to be dove. That's how they lost 5 plates for the most part. Or they were just really far back to not be able to get dove. Like, when people play like that, if you're just going to get natural 5-plated sub 12 minutes, like you're not gonna really be diveable. You've already just like lost the game, right? But the really important part about that game, and why I signaled out JoJo, who, to be fair, I will say he's been their best player this whole split still. But just to clarify, like that specific game, when he died there, they not only couldn't get top turret anymore due to his failed rotation, they couldn't get Herald anymore, because they lost tempo, and their comp was just so bad that if you make a mistake that game and fall behind even once, like Ezreal caught up because of that play from JoJo. Ezreal actually caught up a level and a half. He was level 10 and Berserker was level 9. I remember that on a midwave.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know how I remember this game so well, but it's kind of random. But like, it's like, I do think Blaber deserves criticism, but I know he received so much criticism from like casters and analysts for that game, and like, because like Ivern just kept going mid and putting bushes, but like you can't. Like, there's nothing you could do about that. There's literally nothing you could do about that. Like, him farming while his bot lane smashes the map and he gets every objective was correct. Like, that was the correct way to play the game. But, like I said, I think it was just a failure in their comp. I don't think they actually understoed.
It sounds
how
like
hard
you
their
feel
comp
like
was to
the
execute.
analyst desk was really
We didn't flame
incorrect
him at all. I
on
didn't even talk about him.
on
You
that
guys
Someone,
game.
hated him.
I don't know if it was analysts. I mean, okay, maybe it was an analyst. Maybe it was a community or something. I don't know. I just remembered reading people being like, Blaber's so fucking useless, like full clear rel or something, and I'm just like, could he have even done anything mid? Like, I don't think that's like they're not gonna opt into a 2v2, like, or he's pushing waves, and like all Ivern doing going mid and putting a bush and pressing E on her is giving her like agency to CS better, and like Like they're not gonna just dive mid or something. Like it's not the matchup and not the game. Like I don't know. Sorry, really sidetracked, but like
No, that's fair.
really sidetracked. But I know Blaber got a lot of flack for that game, and I thought it was troll. So yeah,
All right.
put that out there.
I do have examples. I actually go for the contracts point because the shit that I was saying earlier, I didn't remember the specific games. So the Shopify Rebellion game where remember when? Oh my god, when NRG's bot lane 2v2 dove bot lane and just got completely fucked from that game forward because they just failed to dive.
Yep.
That was the game where I was like, sure, like, then maybe they 100% they can 2v2 dive bot lane, but in my mind, like you should always include jungle for that play. Personally, that was like a small one. That was a small one for me. I thought like it didn't make sense with that comp that they had. That they're having Nocturne path like Raptors up instead of pathing down. That was like a small one. The other one was the Viego game where he invades, gets collapsed on, and actually gets Palafox killed. And then they had a Rift Herald fight where he focuses the wrong target and they actually lose that fight based off of it. And also he starts the fight where I think it was probably just a bad fight to go for to begin with. So like those are very specific examples, but those are 2 to 3 games in a row where I thought he personally didn't perform all that well. But in terms of consistency, you can pull any player, even in the example that I gave for Umpty, like he ended up winning player of the game, but like he had a really troll early game that could have crushed him. So I just don't think past the first 2 junglers that we talked about that the rest of the junglers have been consistent. So I don't see there. I think contracts would make a good case. I think Blaber gets a lot of disrespect when right now there's just a lot of Cloud9 hate train. That was it.
But let's sort of bit of button on the call then. So the take was
true.
Blaber not top 3. Cubby, Raz, Revenge. Is Blaber top 3? Yes or no? Cubby?
No.
Raz?
God. Right now I'm gonna say no, but I'm pretty sure if I just go through the VODs again, I can convince myself otherwise.
So
but he's like 4th or 3rd.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he started 4th. Yeah, I agree with what Raz said essentially.
All right. Caller, what do you think of all this? It sounds like they mostly agree with you.
They agree with the general premise. It seems that I'm pretty out in the open in terms of the XU take. I would encourage anyone who hasn't been too hot on XU to watch the games because it's felt to me like he's been a very large part of impacting the map, getting all of the lanes in a really, really good spot. And I actually think that they had 2 solid games where they were in winning positions, and XU was not the reason that they lost the games in those positions. So I think that Dig could easily be tied for 2nd right now, which to me is really surprising. I wasn't really a Dig fan, but I think that he's been performing really, really well. I think he's been doing a good job of putting them in winning positions, and I think that if they were able to convert those into wins a little bit better, XU would be getting a lot more attention.
No, he's doing pretty good. I will agree with that. Yeah. He is doing pretty good.
Well, I guess we'll see how things go. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, shout outs to all the people who've been working on LCS this split on stream and behind the scenes. I've been really enjoying the product as someone who's watched since season 2, like the very first season of LCS. This is the happiest that I have as a viewer have been with the product in quite some time. And shout outs to all of the collegiate squads that are kind of making a statement in tier 2 right now. Maryville is at the top of the NACL standings. The St. Louis University, 4/5 of their roster is doing pretty solid. And Winthrop University is also making their way through the OQs right now. So, yeah.
No, I agree with that sentiment. And by the way, if I would just encourage anybody who is enjoying the LCS to maybe mention it to your friends who maybe haven't watched in a bit. I think there's a pretty good reason for a lot of people to have lost interest over, especially during the pandemic years. There were just a couple of seasons that I think were really rough from a broadcast perspective and from a narrative perspective. But I do think like the league is in a really great place, and word just needs to get out, hopefully, so that we can continue to grow that viewership. So, hey, thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Should have time for another call before we take our sponsor break. Thank you to, where are we? Oh, we got a ton of subs here. Thank you, everybody. We got Swede gifted sub to Fudgenator, sandytoes, Frosty, good to see you. Cheechmeister, ZePaladin, talking lots, got most of you folks before, but Moist Charlie 69, thank you for the prime. Not the actual Charlie, but a a generous imposter. That Phil Kid Hobnobbin for 4 years. Thank you, Hobnobbin. And then Smoke Dog with 45 months, closing in on 4 years. Over on YouTube, Brad Pitt's anus has gifted 10 memberships. Thank you very much. It's very generous of you.
Sheesh.
People coming up with really innovative names. But 10 memberships over there. That's very cool of you. Thank you. Congrats to all those folks who got that. Gambirino is here. Gambirino, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from North Dakota.
From North Dakota. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, I want to talk about Quid after this past weekend. I think Quid, if he's still eligible, since he's still in his first year of playing, I think he's definitely shown that he deserves to be rookie of the split with his performance as a carry on 100 Thieves.
So Quid is rookie of the split. Is Quid eligible for rookie of the split?
First of all, it's
Don't
rookie of the
think
year,
so.
and second of all, I don't think so because he had a full split,
Yeah.
which he would be eligible last split. But that, yeah, not a good split.
All right, let's
Either way.
redirect this to say
Quid's been good.
Quid's been really good, and is maybe the most improved year over year. Is that a good way of putting it, Gambirino?
Yes, I think Quid is one of the most exciting newer talents that have been playing the split.
Yeah.
Especially with the improvement we've seen.
We saw a sniper in the Twitch chat earlier trying to bait something out of Revenge. I don't know if Revenge saw that, but
Yeah, I saw the little rat.
yeah, I saw the little rat. Okay,
Cute.
so speaking of rookies, perhaps of the year, but Gambirino, do you want to elaborate on this at all? What has been most impressive to you about Quid?
I think what's been most impressive is that his ability to transition from laning phase to playing with his team, and he seems a lot more willing to go for crazy plays with River, which seems to be 100 Thieves' overall play style, to just kind of go for any angle they can find.
Revenge, what have you thought of Quid so far?
Dude, yeah, Quid is finally showing his potential that he showed in scrims a lot. He was always really good in scrims last split, honestly, but just had terrible issues on stage with his performance. And I mean, I do think that 100 Thieves roster, from everything I heard internally, but the environment was so bad. And I mean, I think that probably contributed to his lack of confidence and just lack of ability to translate from scrims to stage. I mean, I can speak from experience. When environments aren't great, it's really hard to kind of bring that side of you from practice to stage. And honestly, yeah, I expected him to have a really good split to split. So it's not surprising at all for me to see him performing at the level he is right now. Jojo was like always 1v1ing Quid last split, and he's really selective about who he'd 1v1 and practice with. So he thought Quid was really good, and it's just, I mean, whenever they'd go on stage, he'd just get destroyed by Jojo though. And like, I think that again, it just reflects his nerves. And yeah, I'm really happy to see him doing as well as he's doing. It's MVP level, I would say, if he keeps it up to the end of the split and playoffs. Well, I guess playoffs doesn't count, but yeah.
I agree. I think he's easily top 3 mid. It was actually crazy to me, and I want to give props to Jungle Juice for keeping him on, because like everybody, including myself, like I was surprised when he came back, because like I know he was in a really tough position because obviously Spring Split Bjergsen's gone like out of nowhere, and so like you're thrown into a team like that. And there's a lot of things you have to conquer, which is like, first of all, as a really young player, going across the ocean to play at a pretty large league where it felt like you can't really communicate to your teammates. From my observation of watching like the team content and everything, you seem like a little bit of like shy personally. So there's a lot of things you have to conquer there. And I was always a bit confused because I was hyped for him when he was coming in to the last split, because what I've heard good things. And then when I talked to players that played against him in solo queue, they said that he played really well. And then of course he was streaming actually up until the time when he was playing on 100 Thieves, and like he looked good on stream. And it was really weird to see that wasn't translating at all, and I thought he was a dud personally. Like I thought it wasn't going to work out. So like I thought the interview with Golden Glue going in like on Sunday, like the coach interview that he did with Emily, was incredible, because Grayson talked about how he kind of basically talk about how similar the case for Quid was for him in his career, and how he gave him like basically a recommendation, a quote from the book that he had read called like The Art of Not Giving a Fuck, because he recognized that like being able to translate what you're doing in scrims to stage is a difficult thing. And Quid said that like one random day that he got it and he started fucking playing really well. That part's like, I think he probably got set up in a really good situation, which was with the coaching staff that he did. Spooks and Grayson are probably like best coaches you can probably have to be able to set you up for success. Jungle Juice definitely saw a lot in him. And on top of that, you have a jungler in River who's experienced, can communicate with you very easily, and sets up his lanes for great success. And I felt like he was put in a really good situation and he flourished off of it. Like, and Quid just had some fucking amazing games. So I can't wait to see more of him. It's great that he got a second chance.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, let me just parrot that, by the way. Grayson Golden Glue. I'm so happy he finally is in a head coaching position. The guy's got such a great personality and understanding of how to be a coach. He is such a great example of how GMs are in esports. Like, I'm sorry to say it, but like, I know some of you guys are watching, but like, you guys are so sometimes, by the way. Like,
we don't need to use that word. We can.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry. Maybe I shouldn't say that word, but like, yo, my bad. I'm so sorry. Like, but okay, like, Grayson Golden Glue is such a good coach, bro. Like, I will literally die on that grave. This guy is, oh man, like, I don't know. Like, I let my gamer come out, my bad. Like, I shouldn't say that word, but like, I don't know. I'm really happy that he finally has his chance. He's been in the scene doing so much hard work, and he got screwed over so many times in the off seasons. People just didn't want to take a chance on him. I couldn't grasp it. I literally could not grasp it. And yeah, sorry. I shouldn't say that, I shouldn't say that word, but sometimes
medical career in shambles. Back to LCS after the revenge is a party hashtag.
We're giving you clips, Travis. We got you a highlight moment, and honestly, like, it was using an endearing way.
Well, I do want to say that we will have Golden Glue and the 100T coaching and leadership staff on next week's episode of Hotline League, because we're now. They were very cool. They reached out to me shortly after I booked Revenge and Raz for this episode, and so we were able to pre-book them early. So we'll have them on for next week to talk more about this stuff. But I'm kind of curious, Revenge, what was it that you heard? Because I think everybody at the end of last year was like, wow, why is 100T keeping Quid? Including me. I was like kind of skeptical, and it felt like it was a budget thing. You mentioned obviously that he was playing well with JoJo, and JoJo really believed in him. But what do you think held back his performance, or what unlocked him this year versus last year? Since you mentioned that like 100T was struggling.
I mean, as Raz alluded to, a really good coaching staff and really good environment. I think that goes such a long way for a player who, like Raz said, came from across the state or across the fucking continents, to a place that he's not familiar with, and just needs to incorporate in this new environment around, people who believe in him and people who can help his confidence. And that's not to say that people there didn't exist 100 Thieves, but sometimes it also just takes time, like, imports are really hard to incorporate sometimes. No one is like, take Vikla, for example. Vikla, in my opinion, has a similar personality to Quid. They're pretty shy people. He also was in a pretty terrible environment on FlyQuest and flamed out. However, I'm sure that he is a talented player and his talents can come out. He was amazing in LCK, right? So it's just, I don't know. It really is like crazy how much a good environment and, again, just sometimes time for imports can do for them. So yeah, that's definitely a big factor.
Yeah.
Well,
that was the biggest takeaway I had from Quid. Like, just coming in from like being in a visa situation, coming in late, and then getting a full split. I think I agree with everything about Grayson being a good coach. I covered his teams in Challengers League, always did well. But yeah, I think just giving someone the chance, it definitely has paid off tenfold. And props to Quid. It's really tough to swap countries and do what he's doing.
Thank you so much to Revenge. I appreciate the apology. Thank you so much to our caller here. Caller, anything you want to add before I give you your shout out? Look at your shout out here.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to add from a viewer perspective, or even knowing the scrim information about Quid doing well in scrims, there's been so many talents that we always hear about that always do well in scrims but can never bring it on stage. So I just want to applaud Quid for being able to get over that that bump in his career that a lot of people don't manage to fizzle out when trying to overcome. And I think that's a really impressive story for the LCS.
Yeah. Well, anything you want to shout out?
I like to shout out Twitch Chat, the current sponsors of TGI, I believe.
Yes, that is true. Twitch Chat and YouTube. The audience. We have no sponsors at the moment. We're working on it. Got some things in the oven, I guess, as you can say. But I do really appreciate you shouting them out. So thank you so much, Gambirino, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, thank you.
So two things. Yeah, one, let's go into our sponsor plug here. But before we get to that, I do want to say, talking to Cubby here a little bit on the side, and we would love to get more, like, I think we pulled some calls at the start of the show, but we want to make sure that we get some more, just
I gotta
ask
revenge
whatever
him.
you want to revenge.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So at Cubby if you want, but I think again, a rare opportunity to get a pro player to speak candidly on a lot of stuff. And obviously he's talking a lot about the LCS stuff, and I am happy that we're talking about the games because we haven't as much in recent weeks, but I want to make sure that we get a chance for folks to ask a pro player anything they want before he ends up leaving the scene. But let's get into our little sponsor segment. And this episode is brought to you by you. Whether it's you listening to me say this in the car, or walking around the house, or on your way to work, or you are watching over on YouTube, or you've pulled up the Twitch VOD because you're a sub, I want to thank you for supporting this show. We just it's an interesting time here in esports for everybody. You have people like Revenge who are making the brilliant decision to leave the space, and you have people like me who are sticking it out, trying to pay rent sans sponsors. I am fine. Don't worry about me. I like to make those little jokes, but it is, we're in a tough situation where content is expensive to make a lot of times, even when you're trying to do it on the cheap side. And I want to make sure people get paid for that. And so Prime subs, super chats. I see people sometimes comment super chats where it'll be really nice because I'll be going about my day and I'll get a notification that somebody super chatted on a VOD over on YouTube. Or the big thing is a lot of people have been hitting up the link tree. A decent amount of people have been hitting up the link tree and sending a donation in through that system, which I really appreciate. And I'll get those emails just sometimes randomly in a day, and it'll say, thank you for Cubby speaking at my college. Here's $50, Travis. And it just brightens my day. It makes it worth it. So thank you to all of you in the audience who are supporting. And if you want to support, you can do so. There's a TGI support link tree that is in the description. It looks like Raz just slammed it in the Twitch chat, which I really appreciate. He's working for Numi's. Oh, Numi had already linked it, and then Raz relinking it. I see. I was going to.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I'm just going through Get Underwear and Me Undies.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't even pay me anything. It's just I get credit for free underwear, and if I can offset my underwear budget through that Me Undies affiliate referral program, I mean that's a win for TGI. All right, let's get into our next caller. DC the King is here. DC, where are you calling from? DC the King, caller.
Hello.
Where are you calling from?
I heard them above.
We have this bug sometimes where they they talk in one channel. Yeah, they're unmuted. Oh, wait, hello? DC?
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah, there it is.
Where are you calling from?
Just unmuted and muted. I'm calling from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati, Ohio. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I was thinking since Revenge is retiring, I don't know about a donezo manifesto, but best and worst teammates he had, orgs and coaches he had, most overrated player he played against, hardest opponent he played against. I just listed out a bunch of questions.
That's like 8 questions.
Yeah.
Why don't
wants it all.
let's quickly go through these,
Hey,
and
that's
I
what
will
Cubby said he
reword
wanted.
them in the way that makes it so that he feels like he can answer them. Okay, DC. So
Okay.
give me the.
I heard the beginning.
I think I have some answers for some of them.
Yeah. So
what's the most
let's go step by
overrated
step,
player
DC.
you played against?
The most overrated player I played against. I mean, that was
Here
the
we
one I
go.
didn't have an answer to because I trying to think like who was someone that was considered like super super good, but I didn't think was good. No, not Summit. I was gonna say Summit's probably one of the best players to fight against. Summit or Alfari were like definitely the two best players.
Interesting.
No, I don't want to say that. No.
I feel like a part of me knows, but I don't know if
The fans want to know.
Are they an active player, Revenge?
I don't think so. I mean, who's overrated? It's such a weird, like, I'm trying to think like of someone that people consider really, really highly. And no, like I see some people writing Fudge, but like no, like Fudge was when I first started playing, like people were flaming Fudge all the time. I'll get back to that one. All right, what was the other ones?
Okay.
Like
What was the worst teammate you ever had?
wow, this guy wants all the drama.
he wants
dude.
the flame. The funny thing was in the questions, he listed the positives in there too, which I think are easier to answer.
Whose
But he was like,
mom-
no, you know what?
whose
Let's
mom
start
made you the
serving
best
the
food?
spicy.
And what's the best teammate you ever had?
Best teammate I ever had.
He's gonna answer this in 3 seconds flat.
Ignar.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Ignar.
Wait, why ignore?
Why?
I mean, dude, I love Ignar, man. Like this guy. Okay, I consider him. So when I was on FlyQuest Academy, he was on the main team. So I got to see how much he did for the team. And his personality is so amazing. He's so funny. He's so good on stage. Like he is so passionate and good on stage. He's so passionate about wanting to win. Yeah, I guess energy Ignar diff. Yes, energy is Ignar diff. Yes, correct. And on top of that, like no flame to Huhi, but like Ignar is just Ignar did so much for that team. And in such critical moments too. But anyway, yeah, he was one of my favorite teammates. Second would probably be Jojo. Yeah, Jojo was actually such a good teammate. He has like he may come off nonchalant in interviews and stuff, but he cares a lot as a teammate, and he was very like good at criticizing and like bringing out our team issues when we were on EG. He was like partially like the coach of that team. So that was like and he's just very experienced. So
That's
he
so
was one of
crazy
my
to hear
favorite
because he
teammates,
does
yeah.
not like, especially the way he portrays himself, and even in my personal interactions with him, like he seems like a smart guy, but it's hard to imagine him like coaching a team.
No, he can, yeah. And I tell him, I mean, I've told him this. And it's funny you say that because I tell him all the time that like I was surprised becoming your teammate because I didn't expect you to be like the way you are. But from interviews, because that's all I knew him, right?
Right.
But he which again, honestly, and not to bring it back to C9, but surprising how they lack so much direction, I think. I don't know. But I think that he gave our team a lot of direction, and it was like nice to. I felt like I was working with someone who was like, when it came to scrims, when it came to like review, like this guy was really like he was there. He wanted to like actually like make the team better. That was nice. It was nice to work with someone.
Who is
that
a
passionate.
player in the LCS Revenge that you were always surprised at the amount of acclaim that they got? Like, was there ever a player where you're like, yeah, they're good, but like I don't know why the casters, the analyst desk always are like hyping them up nonstop or something?
I'm going through the list just to see if we got a player out there.
I mean, it's funny,
Impact?
but
Is Impact legit, or is he just
Impact is legit. Impact. Well, he's having a rough split, honestly, but he is the GOAT. I would say maybe I feel like I need to like see more lists of players, but someone that like came to mind that like I don't agree with it anymore, but I used to really not agree with Dokla getting praise. But I do think he proved himself. Like he proved himself a lot, honestly, in playoffs and in Worlds. Like I have to give him that, you know. But I didn't agree with him getting so much praise certain splits. But he actually like proved himself. I think he's having honestly a really rough split again. But like he did prove himself eventually. So it's hard for me to even say him right away. I do think sometimes someday like would get so much praise and I wouldn't really understand it because I do think he never felt like a really threatening player to play against. But yeah, it's hard for me to answer that one. I don't know.
Yeah. What else do you see was on your list?
Coaches. What was like your favorite coach, or were there any coaches that were useless? But I don't know if you want to answer any of the negatives.
Bro, like 90% of coaches are useless. Like 90% of them are useless, by the way. 90%. Like there's very few coaches who have this. And you know what? Like I'm gonna like it's not about their gameplay knowledge, okay? Like yes, like it's very rare to get a coach who will spawn into the league with like insane gameplay knowledge and like have it better than every pro player on the team.
Interesting
Like-
you said spawn into the league when talking about coaches, but yes, continue.
No, like it's true though. Like it shouldn't be expected that a coach has better game knowledge than every single player on the team. That is like insane, you know? Unless you have a team of 5 rookies, right? But there's this problem that I don't know, like either the esports orgs can't find it or coaches just like don't have it in esports, but so many of them lack the personality of leadership and uniting a team. And you don't need to be good at the game to do that. You need to understand the team's dynamics. You need to understand the players' personalities. You need to understand the meta and how and what your players are good and bad at. That is a different skill, you know? And the leadership part as well, like having someone that the players can respect and like follow is so rare in esports. That's why I was praising Grayson so much because he has that. He has that, you know? Gihoto also had that. One of my first coaches in LCS. These are actually things that I think every GM, and I hope some of them are listening, can go into off seasons and look at for coaches. And if they don't have it, don't sign them. Or sign them as an assistant coach. Don't sign them as a head coach. Like, find people like that. And I know it's hard to find. Don't get me wrong. I know that's really hard to find. But it's very important to have for so many players because there's so much drama every split. Every split, there's just the most crazy random drama within every team in the league. Every single team has mental booms.
For example,
You're
He
about
wants
to
to
say
know.
I had to
yourself, huh?
try. I had to try.
Revenge, you're about to say yourself, huh? Team's mental booming.
Bro, I can literally list like a billion examples. By the way.
It's the
I
joke
can-
that the team that like booms the least is the one that wins. You know, that's like a running joke, right?
It is. It's a meme. Yeah, it's a meme.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, we boomed like every week on EG last split. Like every week, by the way, we boomed every week. Like, bro, I can't even talk about. Like, there's some stories. Like, I literally like I cannot even talk about some of them, really, because like I don't want. Yeah, I just don't. I don't want to paint some people in too bad of a light, but
Yeah, you don't want to randomly shit on people, but you're just permanently on if I speak mode right now.
What is
Like-
from? Okay,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that have been at Immortals who have now left, and there are a lot of players that have played that have left. Without necessarily, like, maybe you don't need to name names or anything like that, but can you give any examples of just like ridiculous situations that you found yourself in within the league that like fans would just never know of? Because, and I ask that not just because I'm like, yo, give me the dirt, but also because there's so many times where people on Reddit will, you know, or Twitter or something like that will be like, this is why they suck because of this reason or this player or something. And the
you know
reality
what?
is so different, right?
All right. I'll tell a story. Like, I'll tell a story because it's crazy, you know. But there was one time I had a support player on my team on IMT. I don't think he's playing anymore. Just like go completely ballistic at me after a scrim game and I didn't understand what was going on. Like I was just being raged at, like literally like almost being fought physically like literally, and I don't know what's going on. And then I was told the reason for it was because I distracted him with something that I said in loading screen. That's why he went 0 and 10 in the scrim game, because of something I said in loading screen, which was relevant to the game. It wasn't like I said something like weird, like it was like relevant to the game. And then I had to go into review, and I was forced to apologize and make amends, which I thought was ridiculous because I didn't do anything. And we continued to scrim that day and went 0-5. So, which is like we play 5 games of scrims and we went 0-5. Like that's just like something I experienced, you know? And
do you remember
you know
what
it's
you said during
bad.
loading screen?
But like it's bad when my assistant coach was Darda, and why I said loading screen is not relevant. It was just something about like I was playing Jace for Aurelia, and I was like, I might need a ward top at level 3 or something. Like something completely like game related, not meant to distract anybody, you know? But anyway, it's bad when my assistant coach at the time, who's Dardock, goes, "Damn, that's Doc." Like it's bad. Like it's bad, bro. Like it's bad, Like, and I don't know, like it's just random stuff like that could happen in teams, and like people just get like really emotional, and like management in the team doesn't really know how to solve it or like make the situation better, and we just scrim, like we just play and we just lose every game, and then the enemy team that you're scrimming is just like, why, like what like what is going on with that team that day? And then you're just like, oh, they're mental boom, like you just know they're mental boom because it's like you're playing against silver players, like they're just running it down and no one can focus, and something's going on in that team. And then the coaches will message, after a 40-minute review, by the way, which reviews should be like 15 to 20 minutes. A 45-minute or like 50-minute review will be going on, and then the coaches will message, hey, we have to cancel today. And you're just like, okay, bro. Like,
That's the classic.
Yeah.
No.
Do you think how much like mental strain and pressure are on the players behind the scenes, and like how many of them are dealing with emotional issues? Because I think that, again, we don't always see this stuff. It's hard, nobody's going to say it to me in like a post-game interview, but you hear different things. Like, as somebody who's been around a lot of these players, who's been on teams that have been on really rough losing streaks at times, etc., what is the toll that all this is taking on the players? How are they holding up?
If you're a player who, really cares about what, wanting to stay in the LCS, and like I said earlier when we talked about this, not a lot of people have alternatives to LCS. It's very scary to imagine your life as not a pro player, right? So if you're on a losing team and you don't have brand value, you're not like a player who like won LCS multiple times, like Fudge or whatever, right? You're not guaranteed. You can just get kicked at any time. Like, if you're an import, like if you're from Europe or something, you just got to go back home, maybe. Like having your life just being able to suddenly change so much from how you perform in 2 best-of-1 games in a weekend, for example, is scary. Yeah, it's so much pressure, it's so much stress. Like, I would feel at some point in my career, like after we did so bad on IMT, like the 2nd year of IMT, entering my 3rd year, I really felt like every weekend could just be my last weekend. Like, if I have one bad game, like one really bad game, like that's it for me. That's how I felt, And that was so much pressure and stress. Like, it was exhausting. It was like more than exhausting. It like really wears you down as a person. And that's kind of the reality if you're not like a top player on like a top team, like especially with mismanagement and just management issues as well, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I'll add that I think 100% therapy is a thing that's like just mental health in general is a checkup that's needed on teams. Like if you're a part of like a lot of team environments, you're usually going to have like players that are kind of going through it or going through a lot of pressure and stress because of like this experience that Mo's talking about, and you don't really have faith in the internal structure. If things are going poorly, then you're going to boom at times. Like teams are booming because people are actually succumbing to pressure. and they're not able to like get past it. Like I've heard of instances where like probably the best examples would actually be imports, because a lot of the times they come in onto teams without the proper setup. Like, oh, you're gonna be imported in, but we don't have a translator, or at least like maybe they're part-time and you don't have somebody that you can talk to, and good luck, and we're a bad team. So and you're probably like 17, 18. And a lot of the times, like, people already devalue mental health right out of the gate, right? Team sides for sure do. The players for sure do, depending on the country. Depending on the country, if it's like a more conservative country, then you definitely don't value like the therapy.
Evil geniuses.
Well, yeah. So there's a lot of examples, a lot. So to answer that question, definitely sorely needed. And I think this is talked about basically every year, but because of how like the current state of esports, they're not adding staff; they're actually cutting staff. So we're getting further and further away from that being a thing.
Revenge in YouTube chat. I just want to give you a chance to respond to this, because I see it's a perfect. I'm so happy this person wrote it, because it's a sentiment I see a lot. Theodore Figueroa says it isn't mental health. ... These are kids playing video games for a living. They just need an actual responsible adult that can actually handle entitled personalities and turn them into young men. Then you can get therapists who can handle player mental problems, which of course is part of it, but it isn't the main problem. What do you think?
Yep. I feel like what a lot of people don't understand, for a lot of players who became pro players, is a lot of us don't have very natural upbringings, and a lot of us didn't live very normal lives to become pro players at the age that we became it. A lot of us may have had like bullying issues at school, or trauma issues with our parents, or a lot of things that led us to kind of sit on our keyboards and PCs all day and play, right? And a lot of these things, when you put young kids in such an environment, like such a competitive environment, a lot of things come out that are not resolved, right? And yeah, like you can agree, like for some players that is like mental health. Like a lot of people are becoming aware of their mental health issues in such stressful environments, and it gets perpetuated by the amount of stress that we're under. And now I agree, like getting better management from coaches and whatnot, or having a better environment could help alleviate those things, but that isn't the case for every single player. Everyone's different. Everyone's gone through different things. Everyone has different problems, So, and yeah, like as we continue our, journey as a pro player, you're expected to play 12 hours a day every day or more, and that is just not healthy. That's not something that's been done before to be studied or looked at. Like we have no data to look at this long term. We are in the age of something completely new. So to speak on how this is affecting us mentally, physically, all these things, we don't have data for that. We don't know. And that is why it's so important that we should take care of our health and stuff. And like for perspective, I'm gonna give you guys just, I'll just speak to myself. After my series against TL, I felt so physically ill. That was my last series I ever played as a pro player, and it will be. I weighed myself. I weighed 138 pounds. And right now, after 8 months or so, it's probably been 8 months, I weigh 168 pounds. And that stress and pressure I put myself under made me lose literally like just 20 pounds or so gone, because, I put on more weight, right? And I'm happy about that, but I couldn't even do that as a pro player because of how stressed I am. And so that definitely was starting to cause me mental health issues, right? And I'm not alone in that. Believe me when I say I am not alone in that. And that's every region. And no, you can't blame EG. It's not EG's fault. It wouldn't have mattered what org I was on. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just, like... I'm trying to think of how to word this. I just appreciate you talking candidly about that stuff, because I think that people do not understand how widespread this is and what the stresses are. And you see players for just these brief moments, right? Which is they're sitting at their computer, they're playing, Then they do a post-game interview. Maybe they do an interview with me or Degon or somebody. And then every now and then they stream, or you might see them. It's just like people don't have any real perspective. And I think of myself as somebody who is fairly close to the pros and has a good understanding of this stuff from being so close to different people who've competed over these years. And even I have like so little exposure to what things are like when you go home on a Sunday evening after, your sixth loss in a row, and you just know that you have to get back up and do it again this next week, And so that's just one of the reasons I'm really appreciative of you talking about this stuff, because I think people just don't get it. DC, I know we've gone into much more of like a dramatic section, I think, than the dirt that you were hoping to pick up. But do you have one fun question here at the end before we give you your shout-outs from your giant list?
One fun question. I don't know. They're mostly trying to bait him into saying something spicy.
Okay, give something.
And we respect you for that, but we respect you for that, brother.
What did you say, Travis? Sorry.
I was saying give something spicy then.
No, I did say what was your worst teammate. I don't think he answered that.
He didn't answer that one. I don't know if you have anything else.
No, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll shout out Travis the Gafford's fans for funding this experience for everybody, and shout out to Cubby and Travis for keeping with it. Appreciate it, and thanks to Revenge for coming on post retirement, and Raz, of course, for killing on the broadcast.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I really appreciate the call, and thanks for trying to get some dirt from Revenge. It's always good content,
Yeah, we don't have to do it. We got callers to help us. It's great.
Yes, exactly. I don't have to take the blame. Wait, one last question. Revenge, on behalf of DC the King, have you had Fake God's mom's cooking? Can you verify if it is good or not?
No, I've not.
Oh,
I've not.
Is that the biggest regret from your pro career?
No.
I bet it is. Can't be a regret if you've never had it.
I mean,
thanks,
Feminist was pro on it. Wonder what Revenge would think of. Mom's cooking.
All right. We're way behind on schedule, so we're gonna start speeding up on some of these callers.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So Cubby's off. Thank you to Hobnobbin for gifting 5 subs. The Noblet for 44 months. I don't know if they're related, but either way. Estrella Glanza, Bigger Frog, Old Slice of Bologna for a year. Evil Trenton gifted a sub, and Danny Grimm. And then over on YouTube, we have some more support coming in from Josh Lippelman, who sent another $10 super chat on top of the previous one. Jeremy, thank you for the $5 super chat. And Stevie, thank you for becoming a new member. If you become a member, you can watch content before it goes live on YouTube, so it's a good opportunity for folks who do want to see the content and sometimes a little bit more timely of a manner. Our next caller is here. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, Sandy Toes, calling in from Alexandria, Virginia.
Sandy Toes, you subbed earlier in the show. Thank you. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Of course. Fun to follow up the last caller's take, but my take is that the LCS is stabilizing. I think the drop down to 8 teams has actually worked, and it's provided many more compelling games and a much more competitive and compelling split narrative-wise, game-wise, everything. Mark Z had a couple tweets this past week about viewership, and that it's holding strong, looking better. I'm inclined to believe Mark more so than maybe other rioters in the past. We know Mark, we trust him, we love him as a community. And then the other thing that I think folks really haven't talked about is the LCS has announced 3 different sponsors since the start of the year. And I know everyone likes to meme on the, egg roll sponsor, but like Kia and AT&T are, national brands. Like and I don't think anyone's really talking about how big that is for the league. I don't think the LCS is dying, and it will be around for a long time, in my opinion.
So just hitting on the egg roll thing, because everybody loves to be about the egg roll thing. It's so crazy to me that, yes, they are not, it's not AT&T, it is not Kia, but like those are the types of brands that advertise on traditional sports broadcasts. Like it is not. We're not talking about some, mom and pop shop or whatever. Like these are, they are products that are created and marketed and sold from like big companies in supermarkets and all that stuff. So I think like the memeing around that stuff is just kind of goofy, but I know we've been making revenge talk for a little bit. So Cubby, what do you think of this split of the LCS and everything that we've been seeing from it so far? Is the LCS stabilizing? Is it getting to a good place? Like, what do you think?
I mean, I think like viewership. I know that like Mark shared the numbers that he did, but spring is where you get more viewers than summer, historically, at least in the States, because in Europe, just because weather, right? Summer's warmer. I like the viewership numbers aren't super promising to me still. I think that this is the first time that it like in a while it feels like the LCS does have a lot of positive energy around it. And I mean that feels good. And it also is just I mean it's got to be nice for like Raz and the team to like. I mean I know how hard these guys work week in and week out, and it can be demoralizing if like people outside of it are down on things. And so like I think it's a real feel good for everyone that like everyone's kind of up on the LCS right now in terms of gameplay. As EU finally hit the reality check, they actually aren't that good too with NA. I don't know who's good or better, but like EU was convinced for the last 2 years that they weren't the same boat as us, and now they know that they are. Might be even worse. So that's fun. I don't know. For me, it's still not enough games. And I think it's fun that like every team can beat everyone right now, and that was proven last week. I mean, my predictions have been in shambles. But yeah, I think that like there still needs to be more than just a gameplay perspective that like helps the positive energy. I think that the speed between games is great. I think some of the like pros content, it's been really good to see fans like be positive about that. But I think that like it's fair to say it's stabilized, but I don't see it like still growing or like becoming more of like a cultural phenomenon, which I really think that like this should have been if they hit the iron when it was hot back in like season 6, 7, and 8. So
I like to think about it being stabilized. I mean, obviously,
yeah.
Take whatever I say with a grain of salt. I'm literally on the broadcast, but I think whenever it comes to the one thing that tilts me so much is when you make change when perception is starting to change. So like if like there's always the meme of like there's a rebrand every year. In this case, I think the one positive thing that's been happening, at least the thing that I'm really happy about, is we're starting to get a lot more player personality content out there. Not like only from the broadcast side with pros and all that, but also they're streaming more regularly. And we're rating their streams, and it's actually working because they're retaining a lot of the viewership from those raids, or at least Dokla is from the example that was given. And like when Blaber streams, he gets numbers. Jensen actually streamed like 2 times, or actually like that already doubled the amount of streams he streamed last year. Like to me, it's good when people are care about the players and know a little bit more about the players. And as long as they actually can retain that from some of our new players, then it's easier to become a fan of the players, of the teams, and I think that takes time. Another thing is actually thinking that your region is good. So we still have to go for like MSI and international events, but right now people are enjoying the quality. Like I say, quality of the games. The games are just exciting. Even if you can kind of look at the games themselves and point out mistakes, like we're getting excited. Like we just had the most exciting game in 100 Thieves versus C9, and we already mentioned 100 Thieves quite a bit. They're literally the bloodiest team of the major regions, all major regions. So like we are getting exciting games. People are caring for the newer players. It doesn't hurt. I mean, it doesn't help that the boomerang effect is happening, Mr. Travis Gafford, that we're constantly getting new players in and out, so it's hard to be able to build up that up. But I do think I agree with the stabilizing factor. I think going back on the weekends helps tremendously, and we actually have fans in the studio, and we're improving the experiences for the fans that are there, because we actually had a lot of those, what do we call them, like tailgates or parties or whatever.
Being at LCS has been really fun when I've been able to like sneak down there. The weekend, like I moved here when it was just weekdays, so I didn't really realize how many more people were there on the weekends.
Yeah,
and it's a lot more fun.
Yeah, we actually have like a heart and soul, and we're actually doing something with the community. I think that goes a long way, but it's going to take time to build that up from from the ground up. So I agree with the stabilizing point. The sponsors are a nice touch. Still haven't got a pagoda snack yet, but I'm sure that will happen soon. I know flowers can't have that shit because there's soy in a lot of them, in all of them. I think flowers would just die. That man has an allergic reaction of the Titans, so that guy would just if he ate a pagoda snack.
Yeah, that would not be good for the sponsorship if one of the casters died on broadcast to the sponsor product. So soy allergies are.
Breaking news: Flowers dies to pagoda snack. Breaking.
If I could respond to one thing that Raz said, he mentioned going back to weekends. I forgot to put that in my take, but just like on a personal standpoint, when they went to weekdays last year, I work a normal 9 to 5 type job, and then usually I have stuff going on the weekends. See friends.
So why don't you just watch it on your second screen?
I cannot. Twitch and YouTube are blocked at work.
That's really weird because the Riot people I talked to said that people would just watch LCS on their second screen, and it's strange to hear that you guys you don't work at a company like Riot Games that just has Twitch and YouTube literally on TVs mounted around the office.
Yeah, crazy. So yeah, I thought, oh great, it's going to be on weeknights. I have less going on weeknights. I'll be able to watch more. I watched less LCS last year than I ever have before. And now we're back on weekends, and all of a sudden, magically, I can watch more. It's crazy. It's almost like weekends are the superior days to run the show. And then, Cubby, you said something about more games. I'm not making this a best of 2, best of 3 call, but I do agree from, just a lonely viewer over here that more games, even if it was like triple round robin, best of 2, best of 3, anything, more games would be better from the viewership perspective.
Oh, Scam Train just started in the Twitch chat. Thank you for subbing.
Yeah, I'll just say, I think that a lot of the changes the LCS has made would also help. I don't think that that downsizing to 8 teams is what's made LCS better to watch. I think that if we had 2 more teams that actually cared in the given product that we have now, with all the effort and positivity surrounding everything, it would be even more enjoyable.
Agreed.
So yeah, and I think that that's the one thing I still need to criticize Riot about, which I even mentioned in my retirement post, which is just there's still no tangible plan or knowledge about what's happening in the future to us yet. And I think that's really disappointing. Is it going to be 8 teams again next year? Even next split, can they get some some stuff together before summer? I don't know. And I think that's been very disappointing. And then to touch as well on the whole going to weekends thing. I mean, we were just getting trolled. I was part of the Players Association executive board for 2 years, and we spoke to Riot a lot, the previous commissioner, as well, about the decision, and we were just told that, and Riot's still dying on the hill, had nothing to do with Valorant, I don't know whether to fully believe that or not, but
just like the 2-week break coming up.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know. Yeah,
Mark did
No, they
own
said-
that was related to
they literally
Valorant
said
in
it
his
was in the-
opening video.
yeah,
They
yeah.
just didn't put it in the
Yeah.
post for some reason.
Yeah.
All right.
So our previous commissioner told us that it was all her idea, and this is public. This is all public knowledge. I'm not leaking anything. She said it was all her idea, Jackie Felling, and that if the weekend stuff and if it didn't add viewership, that it was all gonna be on her, right? And again, I don't know if she was just taking the heat or something, but it's I don't know how anyone could think that weekday games are gonna bring more viewership. That just I don't know. I really couldn't.
I will say this. I think I do believe that because I had talked to Jackie very early on, and Jackie was not. I don't think she was the type of person who just take heat for things in private conversation. So, and I do think she thought weeks would be better, and I think that it is not crazy to think weekdays could be better if you place them late enough in the day, because I do think there's the argument of oh yeah, people are going out and doing primetime television historically has always been in the evenings, starting at like 8 o'clock or whatever, and a lot of games are scheduled that way. A lot of shows are scheduled that way. Not a lot of things besides maybe traditional sports, which was maybe the first sign that it should have been better for the weekdays, are scheduled at like noon on a Saturday. So like I don't think it's that crazy to have thought that. I think the way they implemented it was like really rough. And I think like it is obvious that even if it was Jackie's immediate idea, the fact that we have this 2-week break, clearly it was also helpful for Valorant, even if that's not where the idea came from. I think that was probably why Global then picked up Jackie's thoughts. Sorry, Revenge. I just wanted to clarify.
No. I mean, it's good you clarify. Like, I mean, it's just what I knew the sentiment was from every player at least, and even just people I interact with, is that, and even the fan community sentiment. I mean, it was all against it, and so that's why I couldn't. I couldn't understand where all these new viewers would come from, and yeah, I don't know. I do get it now with that logic, but it's still like, I think Papa Smithy in the chat was saying the LCS was always 40 to 60% EU viewers, and there's more viewers East Coast than West Coast. Yeah. So
Travis, what time was like Friday Night League or Monday Night League?
I was gonna reference that.
Yeah.
Like it was late.
But I remember.
I don't.
Go ahead.
They like tried to make it a different show because like I remember like there was a different graphics package back then.
Yeah.
And for like Monday Night League or Friday Night League, like tried to like the Monday Night Football, and I think it was a combination of like it wasn't sold well enough where people knew it was there, and then like the execution of it was just like it was like a yellow package, and it was like really distracting to me.
They tried to make it like this goofy, like,
yeah.
And now we're gonna have, and now everyone has fun because it's Friday night. We're all gonna have fun. Oh, I mean Monday night. And by the way, viewership on that stuff was not that bad by the end of it. I also look, I am by far a weekend believer. I do think it is better for the product that it is in weekend. Guys, viewership has not changed that much year over year. Spring to spring, our viewership is not skyrocketed because we've moved back to the weekends.
Yeah.
And so like if you are like I as much as we all meme it, and I still think it was a better move to move it back to the weekend. If you are like somebody at Riot who pushed to make that stuff weekdays, and then you are looking at the analytics for this split and comparing it to what viewership was whenever it was on at 2:00 on a Thursday, like you're probably not feeling that incorrect, especially whenever we're talking about like the
people don't come back. You can't make a comparison when people when you make a change, people out of your league. By the way,
am I dropping? Sorry, you guys are. I'm losing everybody. It's just Raz maybe. Cubby, are you here?
I'm good. We got Razbot in the chat.
We've broken Raz. Okay, that's what's happened.
I'll be right back.
Bro, you scared me. I didn't know what's going on. It's like...
Riot's censoring you, Raz.
Yeah.
You know, they're in the Discord servers.
He does live closer to the studio than I do. Not to dox him too much, but I do wonder if they've got to him.
Bro, back. Oh, am I good now?
Yeah. No, your video's not good. I think you are. Did you start torrenting?
Maybe I came up.
Had to download the new Persona updates.
Okay, Raz, why don't you maybe drop from the call, try to come back or something like that. But like Cubby or Revenge, if either of you wants to respond while we wait for Raz. Oh wait, I think he's back. Raz, are you here? Oh, as soon as he dropped from Discord, he came back to good life. Raz?
And am I good now?
You're good now. Yeah, okay. Go ahead and fire off whatever you were gonna say just as energetically.
Drop off of a product, no matter what it is. If you change the schedule, if you change it to a different day and you miss an entire year, you're disincentivized. Not at all. So that's my biggest concern. Hey,
did we lose Travis?
What is going on?
Oh, it looks like we lost. It looks like we lost Travis. Yeah.
Oh no!
Oh my god!
Hotline League, no.
What is happening?
That is so funny.
Whoa, bro! Riot!
Yo, what's up, Revenge?
There they are.
Riot!
My bad.
Bro,
you know?
it's either Riot or one of the GMs. It's my bad, guy. I'm sorry. I'm
My
sorry.
bad.
Okay, I'm
My
sorry.
bad. Our bad, guys.
They're under the floorboards.
My computer has been doing something. I don't know if it's related to the recent sponsorship change on my part, where the USB drivers all crash at once and then reconnect.
Yeah, what's up? Wait, why's Cubby?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We can hear
We're
you.
just getting cozy in the late night show.
No, we
man.
can
What's
hear
up?
you.
Okay. All right.
Cubby,
I think we're.
Cubby's
I don't know why this hit Raz and then me.
That's another rant about LA infrastructure, I suppose. But
Yeah.
I mean, just to quickly wrap it up, I
Yeah.
like you can't make that comparison statistically. Like when you lose viewership based off a changing schedule or day, it's hard to retain those viewers or bring them back. You need to make a viable case for your product, which I think we are making. I think it is getting better, but like retaining churned viewers is always going to be like a difficult thing. That being said, I think so that's the more logical version of it rather than me yelling in a robot's voice.
So the thing I do want to mention here, but sort of we've gone around the table. I have never felt to the caller's original question, right? Which is should we feel good, excited about the LCS? I have never felt more split on the LCS. I think the LCS is doing such great things, mostly, and it's funny because he's my friend, like mostly around stuff that Mark has brought to the league. But I feel worried, and I will get into it. But Mark and I actually had a pretty big argument recently about it, because he feels very positive about the league, and I feel worried for him. That's what our discussion was. I feel like he faces so many headwinds, right? Like he comes in and it's like he's plugging holes, right? But another one keeps leaking. I get excited because they cut down the time in between. Everybody's excited about it. Positives aside, LS is tweeting about it. Everybody's tweeting about it. It's great. Then they announced no spring finals location. That sucks. They are creating great content that highlights the pros, like you were mentioning, Raz. On the other hand, we have players like Revenge leaving the league because there's no spot for him, and there's no tier 2 system that's like a good fallback. Like if you are an LCS pro and you're gonna skip like you don't have a team, like wow, hope you enjoy. I hope you're happy for nothing, because that's what you're gonna get whenever you are not able to compete. Whenever teams don't have, the vast majority of teams don't have challenger teams to pitch you on, and they might not decide to float you even if they do. So like these are the things that make me really worried about the league. Like I worry because in some ways I feel like the foundation is still crumbling even as we're like putting up really beautiful paintings on the wall, and so I'm like, okay, yeah, we can do all these things. We can cut down time. We can increase, we can create pros, this awesome show. But like at the end of the day, if we don't have a system that can support the pros that are on these shows, if we don't have ways to connect with the fans and to keep sponsors happy, like a big old spring finals or something that's not the LCS, like these are the things that worry me. And so it's so strange in that I have never felt more optimistic, or at least for the last couple of years, I haven't felt as optimistic as I do now, but I also have felt more concerned. And like even on a personal level, like should I keep trying to do this? Should I look at what Revenge is doing and find some other path even for myself? The other thing is like franchising feels like a pretty fucking big failure now. Like I really believe that it was a good decision to try to franchise at the time, and it's so frustrating to me because fans I will see online are just like, no, bring back promotion relegation. They don't remember that it was just like David Slan fucking farming LCS spots and flipping them teams and all that stuff over and over again. At the time, like the system was broken. But when I look now and I'm like, fans, like a huge part of franchising was supposed to be the stability that it would bring to the league. And yet we have incredible player turnover. And now we have incredible team turnover. Like as an LCS fan who's watching in 2024, how is this system better than relegation? Because we just saw 2 teams leave the league And by the way, they didn't leave the league because they were bad. In fact, some of the orgs that have been most disappointing are still here. You know, like it doesn't it. There are a lot of issues, I think, with the LCS as it stands now, and like I am excited for a lot of the stuff that they are doing with the broadcast. I'm also just really worried about a lot of the structural issues that are underlying this thing that seem to be getting worse. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with quite a few. Like the idea of like what led, not to speak for Revenge, but what led like Revenge to retiring is the same state for a lot of players currently that are in limbo. Like we already listed quite a few that are in limbo right now. Like for them to stay around for a year plus, like Whippo did, I guess. But a lot of people won't do that because a lot of the times, you're staying for a year for what reason? Like you're going to stream for a year or you're going to play in NACL for a year. At least Academy had like a decent, like had some prospects. But like high school, collegiate, I think is in a pretty rough spot. I think NACL is stabilizing from a really, really fucked decision, I think, from last year. So yeah, those are underlying problems that we've had for a while. And I think the one thing that Revenge said that I wanted to back up, which was, I really feel like we need 10 teams. Like 8 teams to me, like I guess the only positive is like you have less teams to focus on, and so that makes it easier for you to build specific players. But this is not a player problem. We have players that can play in the LCS right now. It's for me an organizational problems where we don't feel there's trust that we have another like 2 good orgs that are willing to play in the league.
I think 8 teams are fine if you have a good tier 2 system.
Yeah, if, like it would be amazing for us. I know Cape Corp going into the LEC was incredible for them. If we were able to get like Disguise or anything like that into our league, like basically team leaders or organizations that really care to want to be here, that have great promotion tools, like that would be great for the league. So
hey,
obviously
really quickly, and we gotta speed up because oh my god,
go for it.
I'm sorry folks that we're going so long. I'm gonna blame
this
that
means
on the
great conversation, Travis.
Raz and Travis. I know, but I want to be respectful of
technical
both of
problems.
your time because we try to keep these shows on the 2-hour thing. Revenge, I do want to ask you. Let's say you go to college, and that college, you go back to medical school, and that university has a esports club. They invite you to talk at it, and somebody comes up to you and says, hey, I am getting scouted by amateur teams, and I'm really good, and I've always wanted to go pro. I'm thinking about going pro. Should I do it? What do you tell them? Knowing everything you know now.
I mean, it's, and I've thought this even before I was a pro, to be honest, but if you're like in 18 or 19 and you aren't in a position where you're like, you know, high challenger, I mean, I would have to say it really just depends on where they are at and how good of a player they really are, because to be successful as a pro player once you're already like 18 or 19 and you haven't even started yet, you haven't even started an academy, NACL or anything, you have to be really, really talented, because a lot of times you already get scouted when you're like 14, 15, 16 as a player. If you're like a really promising player who's, you know, I think it's worth it for you to like drop education at that point and like pursue LCS. You've probably already been scouted when you were much younger and higher elo, reached rank 1 already maybe from solo queue. Like to have the potential to make it to LCS, you really need to be at a point where, yeah, that's it. You just, you know, you have so much potential already. So it just really depends. It is a very big gamble. But I'm never adverse to telling people to like try to follow their passion and their dreams, because again, that's what I did. And I will say like my situation was more unique because I was scouted already, like as I was saying. But if you want to just try for a year and see where it leads you, like if you're 18, 19 in university and you take a year off, like there's nothing wrong with that, you know? There's nothing wrong with that. So I would encourage people to like take time away from school if they need to pursue a passion. And just,
It's good to
Yeah.
hear this, because my concern was that your answer would be it's no longer, because it's like the gamble is, can I make it into the LCS in my mind, right? Like you are going to invest all this time to try to see if you can actually do the fucking thing, which is go pro in the LCS. And
LCS. Okay.
and
Yeah, that's
well, no, but that's what I'm saying, right? It's like you're trying to get to the LCS, and in our conversations today, it seems as though like you don't feel stable once you're in the LCS, right? Like especially now we have half the teams we did before, right? We had a year ago we had 20 teams. We had 10 LCS teams, 10 challenger teams that could support players. Now we have 10 teams because we have 8 LCS teams and 2 challenger teams. And so like and then even in that situation we have such crazy retention issues with the players and all that stuff. And so that is like I'm not trying to change your mind on this. It's more just like I could understand why somebody in your position who's retiring and leaving now would be like, I don't know if this is worth it anymore. Because like even if you
Well,
get there,
yeah.
I mean,
you've
you've gone
so.
from
Oh, sorry. Continue. Yeah.
you've gone from like having a California state minimum salary guaranteed to like the majority of people in NACL now are getting, at best, like I'd say on average, 1K a month, and they're in school. Like the majority of people, like going from X to Y because the owner said we don't want to pay for this anymore was really brutal for the space. And if it was the old academy system, like Revenge and Licorice are really talented players that deserve more than that. And I'm really glad that you brought him up in your post too, because you guys both had really killing last splits. And the fact that neither of you are playing an LCS is a crime. But in the past, there would be opportunities for people to be in academy teams. And oftentimes it was like, hey, like will Revenge and Licorice take over if they so choose? Like you would more so have the option to be like, am I going to sit out and wait to try and get a good team? Or do I want to keep on competing and compete like in academy and try and do that, right? And then just get an LCS spot like when things work out. And that is a really tough option for players to make now. And a lot of players have been forced out at both levels because of money, which I know that you were talking about beforehand, Revenge. But like the change of the ecosystem, it's not like the LCS average salary is over 200K anymore. That's probably not the case. Like that has gone down significantly. Like I want to say that even with 8 teams, probably the same amount, if not more players are on minimums compared to like what it's been in the past.
I mean,
that,
yeah.
yeah.
I can open a can of worms when like, okay, you know what? Like, I'll just touch on it. I mean, I guess this is pretty important because
It is.
A lot of
mean,
people-
it's this versus school, right? And school is like what traditionally sets you up for your livelihood moving forward, right?
well, okay, no, it's just a lot of people are like, it's like, okay, it goes to the question, how are decisions made in the off season? Who decides what, right? Like, sometimes it's the GMs, sometimes it's like a star player making decisions on the team with the coach/GM, but it's like, what's fair, right? Like, what's deserved, Like, okay, let's look at Shopify, right? Like, how was that roster decided, right? It was all the power, from what I understand in the offseason, was given to their head coach, Reven, which is, sometimes the case, right? Like, that was how I got into LCS. The power was given to Gihoto, and he got me out of a, solo queue, basically, / my first year in academy, and brought me into LCS, right? He had that power to do that against so many people's opinions of me and everything, right? The coach had that power, or the GM has that power, right? And it's like, what's fair with that, right? What security do you have in that? Like, how do I know I'm going to get selected by, a certain GM or a certain coach, right? And a lot of times, nepotism and friendship are in play. It's true, Some people are going to favor others, right? And, like, I love bringing up Licorice's situation because I think it's a perfect example of this, And I know in his post he talked about the fact that, he didn't find a team because Golden Guardians got,
Merked.
kind of boomed or whatever, which is not like, it's not, I don't want to call him a liar, okay? Like, I don't know what Licorice heard or went through in the offseason, but I'll know what I heard, which is that Licorice had, even 3 weeks before Golden Guardian boomed, every player on Golden Guardians was being shopped in the offseason, okay? Every single player, because Golden Guardians knew that they were basically going to offer, and this was Golden Guardians NEG, the reasons why they got kicked out was because they were not going to pay for players living fully, they were not going to pay for players food fully, and they were going to offer every single player on the team minimum. That's why Riot stepped in like, hold up, this is going to cause a fuck ton of issues. These you know, and it wasn't like it directly attacked Golden Guardians and EG like this. They did come out and offer, like they said, but that's what they became aware of in the offseason. Players were being offered nothing, basically. Like, if I'm living in California on a 100K salary and I have to pay for my living and my food and do what I'm doing as an LCS player, I am making nothing. I'm making nothing. And anyway, not to get sidetracked, but
You're talking about
you know,
Licorice.
yeah,
Licorice
Licorice.
had-
Sorry, not yeah.
He could have gotten picked up, is what you're suggesting.
He could have gotten picked up easily. On top of, even when Golden Guardians got taken off the league, taken out of the league, that's an unprecedented event. So if orgs had verbal agreements with players, to go back on their verbal to sign another player is completely normal. It's completely normal. So he did just get screwed. Like, he should be on a team. He was first All-Pro. How much better can you show and not find a team? It doesn't make any sense, you know? Like, and okay, like, I know a lot of people are like, oh my god, 100K is crazy, 100K is crazy. Guys, listen, 100K, if you have to pay for your living and food in LA while doing the amount of hours that you do in LCS and with the taxes that you'll have to pay, you are not coming out with a lot of money. Again, a job as a pro player does not stabilize you for the future at all. You don't get anything afterward. It's not like you just graduated from school and have a 100K salary in a tech job that you're first year in, okay? You have nothing after LCS. You have nothing. Like, you can't fall back on anything. So you have to be paid more. And yes, I know 100K is a lot of money, but when you put that factor into play, I think it's important I clarify that, you know? And
I mean, a great example is Revenge, right?
Yeah.
Who has the opportunity to go become a doctor and not live in Los Angeles where the cost of living is so high. And so there's an opportunity cost. And Revenge's situation is somewhat unique, but you know, there's other people who are also giving up on college and all that type of stuff. I don't know. It's I can understand that, right? Like, do you want to and also to address another thing, you were saying they were not going to provide housing and stuff like that, right, Revenge?
Yes. And again, like, I'll run with you guys the housing that you have to pay to be around the LCS. You can't just live anywhere in LA. You have to live in Santa Monica, Culver City, or Playa Vista. These are areas within 20 minutes from the LCS, okay? So let's just imagine you're me, okay? I'm gonna paint you guys a scenario just so we don't go into this 100K is like so much money. Oh my god, Revenge is like, I came from nothing, by the way, okay? I'm not rich. I don't have anything. I come from nothing, okay? So let me just preface that, all right? And I'm saying 100K is not enough, all right? So imagine I'm me right now. I'm going to play on, let's say EG stayed in the league, okay? And I'm going to join EG, and I need to find my own apartment. The apartment I am in right now, a 1-bedroom, and I looked plenty of places in these areas. At minimum I could find is 3K a month. 3K a month. 3K a month, okay? 3K a month. Now I have to pay for my food. I'm a pro player. Do you think I'm going to, go to the grocery store, shop for $20 a meal, and cook myself 2 meals with that? No, I have to DoorDash. I am now paying like $25 a meal in DoorDash. Yeah, it's that expensive. It is upcharged in California, by the way, DoorDash. So just keep that in mind. So it's $60 in food, pretty much. $60 a day in food. I'm now paying minimum 3K a month on my rent. That's while making 100K salary. And again, what if I have to drive or Uber? You think the org's gonna cover my transportation to the office? No. Now I'm paying at minimum $30 a day in Ubers. I am coming out with nothing if I do that. Why can't he cook? You don't have time as a pro player. You don't have time. You have so little time to cook. It's not that I don't know how to cook. I do know how to cook. Believe me when I say this. As a player, imagine I'm entering playoffs. I'm going to be versing, it's the most important match of my life. I'm going to be spending every single hour of my day playing the game. You must. That's what your expectation is. Like, you're not going to sit there and cook for an hour, cook, clean, and everything. So I'm just giving you guys some perspective because I don't want you guys to take my take as like, oh my god, 100K is not a lot of money. 100K is great money in a lot of different job scenarios, It is. But not in the scenario as an LCS player. Yeah.
For VOD and podcast listeners, Revenge has been arguing with Twitch chat for the last 3 minutes. So whenever he's asking what sound like rhetorical questions and then answering them, he's just reacting to Twitch chat. So
I like the idea that he's just like
I'm just going on an unhinged rant.
Yeah, he just gets so
Just cook during draft, Keck.
People are like,
Yeah.
Revenge is having his own mental breakdown right now on the show.
But it is just flatly, it is alarming if teams are unwilling to pay for these things, which
I can back that from Revenge too, because
Yeah.
I heard like behind the scenes like, yeah,
if
it was gonna be tough next year.
if
people
teams
are
are not willing to invest in these things, that's already an alarming thing, regardless of going through the economics.
Yeah, people are not. People in other parts of the country and in other countries are not going to make, or are not going to understand that, and it's not because they are dumb or anything like that. It is just because it's a very different situation, and we're gonna sound very out of touch, and I get that, but like here's an article from June of last year that says people in LA who make $70K a year are still considered low income. Like I am not sick. Like I think if you're making $80K a year, you're living in LA, it is fine. Like you can. I'm not saying that you're like in poverty at like $80K, or I think the LCS minimum right now is like 76 or 75. I think to Revenge's point, you are making no progress.
Yes, you're making no progress toward a higher salary at that point, and you're also, as I said, like the amount that you are sacrificing being a pro player, like it's not a traditional like 9 to 5 job making 100K. It's not. It is your entire life, and at any point you can just be cut out from it. There is so much risk at play. So that's why I say, and as a pro player, again, you cannot use your experience as a pro player. Like, okay, I could maybe on like applications and stuff for like reapplying to school, but it's not going to get you like a job really outside of like esports. It doesn't mean anything. And it really doesn't. It's cool, but if I go apply to like a tech company right now and be like, oh, I was a pro player, like they don't care. And again, to go back to my point about like Licorice, because I this kind of started with talking about him. It's like I feel for him, because what more can he do to prove his worth to stay in LCS? Like, what more can you do than be voted best top laner of the split and then just not find a job? Like, the people to decide his job and decide the teams and stuff, it's not fair. It isn't fair. It is a game of luck. So you are putting so much of your life up to chance by luck. And to go back to what you earlier asked Travis about, would I tell someone to go do it? It's like I think that in a way, going out and just trying something in your life, like, this is what I think philosophically, like just trying something in your life to understand and experiencing it is good. I would not recommend someone to leave their entire education behind forever and dedicate 5 years of their life to do this. There's no way I would ever advocate for that, And I don't think it's realistic for most people to want to try to make it into LCS anymore. And it's a very hard thing. So, and it needs to, like, and I know there's people saying, oh, LCS is going to last for a long time and everything. This is super important for the life of the LCS. The life of a pro player and how sustainable this is very important to continue the product, and it needs to be better.
All right. Well, I asked you one question, then we added 20 minutes to the show. So, caller, thank you for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I'm still here. Two quick shout outs. One, I just want to say Revenge is absolutely right, and anyone who's in chat who's saying, oh, just move the LCS to the Midwest is completely delusional. It's just impractical and it's not going to happen. And yeah, Revenge is totally right. My other shout out is to the show I do with a couple buds. If you like the best team in North America right now, FlyQuest, you'll love our show. It's called Flight Check, and we do it every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right before Hotline League, so you don't even have to miss any part of Hotline League. Flight Check crew on Twitch and on Twitter. Come follow us, come hang out, and we'll talk all about FlyQuest and all the great stuff they do. That's all for me. Have a great night, guys.
Appreciate you, brother.
You.
All right, we're gonna speed run these next callers.
Oh God!
Go,
All
go,
right, here
Cubby,
we
go.
go.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
sorry. Maybe I might take my
You're
take some time.
sacrificing the
Yeah.
quality of the conversation,
I
Travis.
really
Let's take our
appreciate.
time.
I mean, I am happy to have the show go long for these. It's more just I feel bad that you two are here. I mean, Cubby and I, you are our guests, so it's rough whenever we're taking more time of your night.
How do you
Polowy
feel,
is
man?
here.
It's all right.
Polowy.
I'm all right. I'm all right.
I'm all right too.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
all right. I'm the one extending it, so I've been part of with partially how long my answers
It's been
are, so-
interesting. I've really enjoyed. I think
Yeah.
you've given really good insight on a few things. So, yeah.
Polowy is here. Polowy, where are you calling from?
Hey, my name Polowy, and I am from Edmonton, Alberta.
Polowy?
Yeah.
All right, and what do you want to talk about on the
Go
show?
Flames.
So yeah, just a question for Revenge. How important are academy teams to LCS in terms of practice? How much does it differ from LCS to LCS team scrims? What do LCS teams scrimming their own academy teams produce better practice to the better pocket picks? I asked this because Medio stated on the dive that sometimes you just get hours of horrible scrims from both teams. And as we see with Cloud9, ever since they dropped their academy team, they've looked completely lost, and it seems like they don't even have opportunities to bring in new players.
So just right off the bat, I think it just heavily depends on what the team did to invest in their academy team. Some academy teams are completely useless to practice against as LCS teams. It is like literally gaining nothing. It also depends on the culture that the coaches place on the players, because it is very hard to be fully serious and fully try hard and like make a very good practice environment sometimes when you stream your academy team, because there's just a lot of like memeing and things not being taken fully seriously because it's our B team, like haha, like we're better than them, and there's a lot of that kind of like vibe and also tilt. Like the B team does not like getting shit on by the A team, and if the A team ever loses to the B team, it's a problem, right? So there's just a lot of that kind of dynamic that needs to be handled well by a strong coaching staff. And again, the really important thing that I said in the beginning is, what did the team invest in that academy team in the offseason? Some teams use all their budget on the main team and then just sign, whatever in academy. And that's, back when teams actually like had a requirement to have an academy team, right? And to answer something else you said, me personally, I have 1v1 my academy top laners many times. I think that is very useful. I think having a training partner like that can be very useful. I don't think it's like the biggest make or break thing, and it has absolutely nothing to do with why C9 is not doing well. I'll just say that. Yeah.
Any quick follow-ups from Cubby or Raz to ask Revenge, or maybe to add their own thoughts on this?
Yep, I think that was one of the problems we talked about earlier. That academy was actually a good system, but then no team gave a fuck about it. And actually, like, how many teams just didn't have? I know two examples: TSM at the time, and I think it was Dignitas in certain instances, like literally didn't have a coach. But I think if you're having an academy team, the most important thing is to have a good coach. It's probably more important to have a good coach in academy than in LCS, because then you're actually teaching the straight fundamentals, not only laning, but like team fundamentals, so you can actually challenge your main team. So then if you're thinking at it from an ownership perspective, that will challenge salaries at that time, not important now, but at that time. But so many teams that were saying that it was not helpful to have just didn't invest, which were like the bottom tier teams. Honestly, if you're a bottom tier team, then it was really important for you to invest in your academy team. Teams like Golden Guardians, I think, did a decent job.
Well, I was going to say, I mean,
Genius and 100
Golden
Thieves.
Guardians mostly, other than in 2020. The coaching staff that they had on the academy team, that side was just dog shit. So
it was a rough one. It was a rough year. It was a rough time. I don't know who that guy was. But yeah, like the teams that actually invested in that process, I know Evil Geniuses were the villains, but like the fact that Kelsey, give credit to her, just like some of the infrastructures that existed when you actually cared about that process of sending a player from either your amateur team to academy team to your, like JoJo's in the league because of the benefit of that. Like Danny was a huge benefit of recognizing with good scouting. If you actually have good scouting, you care about that process. So right now, props to FlyQuest and Team Liquid specifically. But if you actually work on that system, you get the benefits of that system. But if you don't, then yeah, might as well not have it. But that's not going to be a problem if that system exists, and that's a problem with the organizations not putting the effort into it.
I really agree with Raz on the coaching point. I think one of the cooler parts about challengers recently was like seeing Spawn and Golden Glue go from there to the LCS. I think that Spawn had a very successful team with like he did it with multiple batches of players because last year he pretty much changed like his entire roster changed, right? Because that TL squad that he had for 2 years straight that like won a bunch, they all made it, right? And he was still really good with that next batch. And then Golden Glue, and he stepped into the skies. That was a team that already won, like they won again, but he had some different moving pieces at 100 Thieves, and that team always looked really strong too while he was there. So I do think that like coaching matters a lot, and it's another discussion to have about how developmental coaching just isn't good enough because there's only really money if you're an LCS coach. Like there's no room for someone that really specializes in development to like make a foothold. It's really difficult to pursue, even though I think it takes a lot of different skills to coach someone up rather than coaching the best of the best, right? And that's proven in a lot of other sport models that is just not valued here monetarily, which is kind of sad. I mean, I think that it can help. Like, shout out to FlyQuest, whose challenger team is also in first, and I think that they're like playing at an LCS level, which is not really a surprise given that their top side is Surdy, Shaden, and Quad, and Quad's been an absolute beast in the league so far. So if like as Revenge said, if that was your goal to have a competitive team, then it can be like you can actually get value from in-houses in practice. But it just really depends on like what the setup is and then just how it's handled. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, caller, for the call. Is there anything you want to shout out here at the end? Sorry, we're kind of speed running.
Oh yeah, of course. 2 quick things. Revenge, enjoy your retirement. And 2, if Mark Z, if you're listening, please bring a finals to Canada. It has been too long. The Canadian fans go wild. We love LCS. Please bring it. Have a good night, everyone.
Very good.
Hey, caller, thoughts on Calgary?
Calgary sucks. Go Oilers. McDavid's the GOAT.
Okay, fuck you.
Oh no!
I hope you enjoyed that playoff series, baby. 4-1.
You bastard.
Right,
Cut him up.
Oh no!
Cut him up. Cut him up.
Nick David is pretty special. Oh man.
That's great. All right. I think we can grab the next caller.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you to Rocket Taco, Toto88, and Bob and George over on YouTube. Thank you, everybody, for the support. That was awesome. All right. This has been a crazy.
That man was
episode.
ready for that question. What the hell was that?
Yeah, actually, I don't know. That guy was born ready, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
he
was
born
really
ready.
Sports fan
waiting.
response. True sports fan response.
All right. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm ZePaladin. I'm calling from Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I just wanted to talk about how the LCS downsize, I think it gives a great chance for rookies to stand out over the veterans in the system that have been getting recycled throughout the years.
Can you elaborate a little bit? Because I already see Revenge trying to understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so basically just with the increased competition, like the distance between first and last in the LCS, it creates like an environment that like, roster spots are like more like hotly contested. And for a lot of the teams that are kind of like mid and lower levels of the pack, they actually have a shot now. And so one of the things, it's a little unrelated, but what we're seeing with teams like FlyQuest last year and C9 this year, like the super team like model just doesn't work anymore. So you're having more people who, can have a shot, and it just kind of makes more the riskier options that would have been seen as such in the past, like viable, like picking up rookies and having them play, and then like just the success they're having this year in general.
I come out and say that I disagree, only because, like, if Evil Geniuses was going into this split, obviously we all know the bullshit, but, like, legitimately they were going to bring in, like, Surdy. That was funny, too, because they actually came out, what was it, Sheep Esports came out with, like, this verbal confirmation with Surdy in the top lane, and then he was, like, obviously he was tweeting about it, or at least he was, you could expect he was pretty excited, and then immediately that just does not pan out. So I think what was going to give more opportunities for the younger players was actually just the fact that there was less money flowing, I guess. So teams were going towards minimums. So like there were some players, I'm sure, that weren't going to accept the minimum. Like they immediately, like a great example, the fuck is double if that brother is not accepting a minimum. He was already losing money coming back into the LCS, right? Like in comparison to streaming. So, and having more teams would give us more opportunities. So that's my actual fear, is that we don't go back to 10 teams. If we don't go back to 10 teams, then you legitimately lose options for players that are coming on up. So that's something that I was afraid of.
Whenever, like for me, like every week that passes where like we don't get any news about it potentially expanding back to 10 is, I feel like, a step closer to just having an America's League, and same with Valorant, which I think is what a lot of people expect. But that, I'm split on that. I still really value the LCS. It's been great seeing some of the new rooks come up and do well, but I think the reasons that they came up was like more of that GM's hands were forced, and I think that like if the money situation was different, we could have seen a very different situation as well. But I will say it is fun having a lot of hungry players in the league that are brand new and like looking to make their mark, and I think it's part of what's contributed that in so little games. So there's just a lot of disparity between teams, or at least like a lot of variance like that can happen in a 14-game season. It's definitely, I mean, made things interesting, right? So.
Well, I mean, my take is that, like, just for example, if the league wasn't downsizing, we're still gonna have rookies like General Sniper in the league, except he would just be getting paid more money. Like, realistically, like, rookies that are actually meant to be in LCS would be in LCS. Like, Meech would be in LCS. Like, Masu would be in LCS. It had, those players, those rookies have absolutely nothing to do with being in the LCS because the league was downsizing. They're actually good and proved that they had potential. All that would have happened was they just would have been paid more. Like, really. I mean, and again, like, the bigger issue is just like, who's deciding, like, how are the decisions being made that the rookies should play or not, right? So I think like the bigger issue that I had, and even still kind of have, is like just random imports. Like, I just think that random import, like, and my take on imports has always just been like, I think an import should be a player brought in that actually brings significant value to a team if they're being imported, and there's some direction around why the player is imported. And if not, I think there are rookies to take chances on and build up, and history has proven in LCS and Academy that is the case. So, yeah, I think that downsizing isn't why the rookies are in LCS right now. The rookies that are currently in LCS got there through their own merits and through their own potential and skill. In fact, I think if downsizing didn't happen, they'd just be getting paid more money. That's my take.
All right. I would just say I think that having 10 more spots on the league would have only increased the opportunity for rookies. I think it's not the number of teams that are in the league that's the issue. It is what Revenge was alluding to, which is, no, let's just get a player and we'll bring them in and we'll send them to back to their region at the end if they didn't work out, which just fucking sucks for that player and sucks for the league and sucks for everyone involved. But that's the LCS meta, baby, and we're not moving away from it.
I would love to see Surdy in the LCS, right? I don't want to see Surdy in the LCS at the cost of like not seeing, Revenge or Licorice, right? Like, that's like not how you want to see people get promoted either, right? That's just not the case. So yeah, it would have been more opportunities.
Curry, formerly a member of LCS staff, says a lot of random imports are just quote unquote scouting done by coaches who don't understand the game and think they're smart. Caller, thank you for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, just wanted to shout out Broadcast Desk. Raz, you guys are killing it. Keep up the good work.
Yeah. Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks so much
Glad
for the call.
you have
Catch you next time.
Glad you're enjoying it. You have a great night.
You too. See you.
Much better ending for Raz on that call than the last one.
The speed run continues.
Yes, 2 more to go. No subs or anything to shout out. If you are watching and you have a Prime sub in the canon, feel free to fire that baby off. It helps support the show. We've got 2 more callers to go. This is the longest episode of Hotline League we've done in a long, long time.
Base.
Tuft is here. Tuft, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Seattle, Washington.
Ooh, you've been on the show previously, and your microphone is much stronger than last time. Okay, I fixed it.
Oh, should I be further away?
No, you're good. You're good now. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so I want to start off with a disclaimer that I like a lot of the changes that were made to the LCS broadcast, but I do think that we have lost a lot, and the broadcast has become weaker from the total lack of time really meaningfully spent on the analyst desk. I think that I represent a lot of people who watch the LCS when I say I'm stupid and I'm very bad at League of Legends. And so I like listening to people who are very smart about the game talk about and break down the game afterwards and look at the big key decision points.
So wait, how are you getting that on the analyst desk?
Well, Emily Rand's there. She's smart.
Okay, great point. You brought me back, Tuft. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's a good point. She is there. Okay, continue.
Mostly, I just want more Emily Rand, right? As a true random. But also, I think that just games kind of feel like they just end, and then we have the little interview at the end, and then we go straight to commercial. And it really doesn't feel like there's any conclusion to the storylines that are built up in the draft and the stuff that gets talked about by the casters throughout the game, other than the big punctuating shouts at the end of the fight or at the end of the game. And I think that the sort of storytelling arc that happens over the course of your average game of League of Legends should have some time spent at the end to conclude and talk about and break down what just happened. Otherwise, it just kind of feels a little incomplete. The 2 or 3 minutes that we have to have the interviews that are okay, but usually are kind of samey, I think would be much better spent listening to people break down the game and talk about it and you zhuzh it up a little bit.
I would say that I think the one thing that sucks from my perspective, I will say immediately that I love the fact that we're going to much shorter transition time. So I currently love what we're doing. But I do think that the tough thing is always going to be if you don't have times in between games to be able to tell a story about a player or actually elevate a player, then you kind of lose. That to me is always going to be a fear. But I think we're finding ways to do it without having that time in between. So a good example would be waiting room. We try and build up a lot of telestrator segments to talk about the players and teams. The champion selects themselves actually have gotten a lot more dynamic. We're putting in a lot more storytelling graphics, and we're putting SOTs. And by SOTs, those are just video packages of the players talking. And we're doing telestrator segments within them. So we're still trying to build that kind of storytelling in a part of the broadcast that everyone watches. Because I would speak as a fan. If I'm watching LEC or if I'm watching LPL, LPL is a little different. They just go to a straight up break screen. But a lot of times I'll watch the game is done, and I'm turning on to doing something different. I'm either going to take a piss, or I'm going to get food, or I'm just going to play an ARAM. I'm just doing something else. I'm not going to be watching. So how do you get fans to be able to watch the part of the broadcast that builds up the story of the players? Well, Champion Select, we're doing that. Within the game, we're doing that. I love the basically the storytelling graphics that we end up putting in the lower thirds a lot more consistently this time. So if you haven't noticed it before, it's actually, you can notice it now. It's actually storytelling that we've done in the past, or LEC has done in the past as well. So basically, we're trying to be a lot more creative and be able to fill the gap that has been lost by the in-between games. But I personally think every region should be able to do the faster transitions between games, because as a fan, majority of the people just want to get to the games. I don't want to wait around 17, 20 minutes from one game to another. That pisses me off sometimes. That bores me. That kills my interest. So as long as we're able to provide that within the game or just before the game, a good example being the champion select, or even if you want to figure that out, we put that in the pre-show, right at the beginning of the show, the waiting room, and we're trying to make that better too. I think that there's still going to be space to do that. But I hear you 100%. Especially, this is a completely different take, but I don't know shit about football. But watching that Nickelodeon broadcast and having Dora the Explorer tell me like literally
back.
the rules makes things easier and better for me. So hopefully we can make it an easier process for like new fans.
The back 5 yards was funny.
That was good.
I mean, like, I think that the approach that you guys are taking, like, I mean, I've been involved as a guest, right? So I kind of get to see how the sausage is made, but not do it week to week. I think that the theory of it was sound in the way that, like, most people are going to watch the games. And, like, Raz can tell you from, you know, working on the desk that it takes the most time, production and capacity-wise, to figure out what goes on in between the games. Like, it takes a lot more effort from behind the scenes rather than just like focusing on the gameplay itself. And so I think that like the approach is pretty simple. It's like, let's just put more effort where we're going to get more people interested, which is watching the actual game, right? That makes sense. But for me, it's like, it is the kind of the concern, like, I mean, they kind of like revolutionize the broadcast like if fucking McDonald's revolutionized fast food, right? We're gonna make everything really fast and really efficient, and you're gonna get what you want, right? Like you actually use like the DNA broadcast is like fucking Team McDonald's. We get the fastest transition time. I am like a little bit concerned because I feel like a lot of good aspects were still dropped. I know, like, I understand behind the scenes, like the desk took a lot of effort. Like I think that what they're doing like at the moment is like I've been really happy with like a lot of the content. I think that the pros segment's been great, and like I feel like they're doing the best with the time. But I mean, I'm concerned with the like spot where like I think that they have to. I'm concerned, and like something that someone put in chat earlier is that they will use the positive fan sentiment and everything going on to justify cutting more people from the broadcast, and I am not for that. And I think that like. That is a concern that I have, like looking at it moving forward as well.
That is,
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I don't want to. We're trying to speed run these calls, so I don't want to go down to the rabbit hole of will they cut people from the broadcast? And if we want to have that call, I'm not saying we can't have that on Hotline League, but we should have it on another episode because this one is overflowing. I do. The one thing I will mention here is that I just think you could get a lot of that same stuff tuft if they did something like Blame Game. Like I'd love to see Emily do that, although I know she's not the type to like call out commenters on opinions or something like that. But like that type of content where you have people reacting to something and then showing a bunch of gameplay around it, I think is that there was a reason why I paid Mark to make that show for my channel, and I think that's. You can start to create these bite-sized pieces of content where you have analysts talking about the game in ways that are not filling 20 minutes of broadcast and people wanting to like get up, go do something else, getting distracted and leaving the broadcast. So
that's definitely fair.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that I have noticed a lot is that like I am also like an avid listener of The Dive, and I was always like a Rift Reaction person back when Rift Reaction was still happening. And like basically JLXP, like any opportunity for me to like consume more stuff with like the talking heads on the LCS broadcast, like talking about and recapping and going through previous games was stuff that I like really ate up because it was like more ways to like wrap my brain around and think about all the stuff that was happening on the weekend and like keep me sort of locked in and engaged with everything that was going on in the LCS. And it feels like JLXP is a little inconsistent. You know, some weeks it happens, some weeks it doesn't. The Dive, still listen to that all the time. No more Rift Reaction. And now we're also losing the analyst desk and, you know, the opportunities for me to like sort of like engage with all that same sort of stuff. I know that I always blank on the name, but the thing that Emily has been doing with Kelsey Moser has been really good. And like has sort of filled the similar like pocket of my brain that like really likes that kind of stuff. But I really miss also having that be a part of the broadcast.
It's called a League Weekly. Anyway, thank you, Tuft, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Mostly, one, got to shout out my Energy Boys, and two, I want to shout out Revenge for bringing to light some of the like stressors of competition and the toll that it takes on mental health. I was a college debate kid for 4 years and like saw a lot of people get like ground through the fucking meat grinder and like turn to like substance abuse or like develop anxiety or sleep disorders because of like all the pressure that they were under. Like a lot of us, it was like the way that we paid for college. And even if it's something that you like really love doing and, you know, like it means a ton to you, I also know that that shit can be like super parasitic and have like very life-altering consequences. So I like that at least this conversation is like being forwarded when people realize that like maybe there are some like negative side effects to pros locking themselves inside and like grinding solo queue for 70 hours a week and then showing up for like 10-hour days at the studio or whatever, you know, to do all the shit that they have to do, and like the consequences that come along with that.
Tuft, thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, later.
Thank you.
All right, last caller. Let's go.
Yep.
Thank you to S. Klein for the 2 months. Thank you for the Prime. And then Blicky Drip, thank you for the tier 1 as well. Looks like Dr. Nollie is here. Dr. Nollie, where are you calling from?
Kokomo, Indiana.
Indiana, what do you want to talk about on the show?
So I watched the episode of Pro that came out today, and I really enjoyed it. I found it interesting how brutally honest Whippo was with Insanity and APA regarding the matchup performances that Insanity had with Quid against Scion and Aatrox. I just found it really interesting, and I was curious with Revenge if players are normally this brutally honest, or if they try to avoid confrontation with each other.
No, I mean, Whippo is like a bit to an extreme. Like, we'll just put it that way. Yeah, he's just known to be a really, like, brutally honest is a good way to put it. I would also just say sometimes, like, can't really read the room or situation. Because, yeah, I mean, he's very, very upfront about, you know, like, he wasn't wrong. Like, I actually watched the clip of him, or like, I watched a bit of that, and listened to what he said to Insanity, and he was completely right. But again, like, the way he, you know, slammed it down, you know, on a talk show of all things. I mean, to be fair, you know, you can look at it both ways. Like, Insanity was kind of asking for it. Like, he was being kind of like joking and cocky and stuff, but, you know, it's true. Everything Blippo said is true, but he's very honest. And I will say,
can you give a little bit of context on this? Sorry, just because some people, I was traveling.
Yeah.
I didn't have a chance to see it. I assume a lot.
Okay, yeah. So basically, Blippo's alluding to the Aatrox Scion matchup that Insanity played, and he was basically, you know, I think APA said something like, "Oh yeah, you know, the reason why Shopify lost that game was this like giga draft gap," and I don't really disagree with APA. I do think it was a draft gap. However, a big problem that game was Quid on Aatrox. He was super ahead and very, very, you know, 1v9 honestly. And a big part of that was because he was up like 30 or 40 CS and played mid on Insanity playing Scion. Scion Aatrox matchup should not go as brutal as it did, especially in mid lane. And Blippo is completely right to like, he basically called out Insanity and was like, you know, seems like you've never played the matchup before. And Insanity was like, yeah, he has before and stuff. And then Blippo was just kind of like, you know, why did you int? You know, like what, like he was kind of, you know, I don't want to say being mean. He was just being very honest. I don't think he had like bad intentions or anything. But I would not say that that's like,
That's not
very
normal, yeah.
That's not very normal amongst pros, I would say. Like especially if you're not like friends. Like I don't think Insanity and Blippo are like friends. So I would say like amongst your friends and stuff, people are, you know, harsh things are said all the time, you know. but yeah, amongst like if you're talking to another pro about a matchup he played and stuff like that, usually it's more, I don't know, cordial if anything. But yeah, to answer you.
How about on teams, actually, of like to your teammates? Because there's probably like a more trusting relationship, though not every team has that. Do you think like you're as brutal to, let's just say if you're talking to your mid laner, and last one was JoJo, but like obviously you've had quite a few mids where you're able to be really honest.
I mean, I know I had some bad words for GMs earlier, but players are also just as bad, including myself. Like, when you're in a season, you are super delusional as a pro player. Like, I don't know how else to say it. I was delusional. Every teammate I've had has their own delusions as well. Everyone is delusional. And what I mean by that is it's very hard for us to gauge what we're good and bad at, especially champions during a season, because a lot of times we have a lot of like passion to want to play something, and we think that we're good at it, and we think that we can pull it off on stage. But it is like the coach's job or GM or whatever, their job to kind of see our skills and strengths and take it out on us, take it out of us, and show it on stage, right? Like a good example is this weekend. No flame to tactical, but he played TF 80 carry, and I don't know how that was allowed. Like, I don't know how a coach allowed that on the team. I'm pretty sure that I know tactical. I know that he's not like, that's not his best champion or his best trait, like to play a champion like TF. It's just not, I know it's just not. And I'm sure that could have easily been addressed, right? But my point in this is, I'm sure tactical wanted to play TF, and I'm sure that he went on stage and wanted to play TF, right? And it was a very brutally bad game, right? And I've had games like that. I think every pro in their career has games like that. And I think that like it's definitely a hard line to cross as a teammate, where you have to tell your other teammate like, hey, you're bad at this champion, I don't think we should play it. I think it's more up to like the coaches to kind of do that. And it is like good for you as a teammate, like, okay, if you think your teammate's really bad at a champion and he's being delusional, that you should tell your coach, hey, we should not pick this on stage because we're gonna lose. That's very normal. That happens all the time. So
Yeah.
that's like, yeah, that's one way to put it.
Because I agree with you. I think yes, the coaches should be able to facilitate that conversation, or just challenge the players. If you have the knowledge of saying like, I literally have never seen you play this champion, or I have seen you play this champion and it's not good, you should be able to like openly, expressly challenge the player in scrim times, or just in general whenever the conversation comes up. But I do think it's really important for players to have that conversation amongst each other, and that trust to be able to like, if you're in scrims with somebody and you watch over, if you're seeing someone else's POV, you're like, he fucked up multiple times. I keep cussing. He messed up multiple times. And you feel like you must be able to breach that ego that exists where the player is going to be immediately defensive. Like, you need to be able to have that trust to discuss like that. Otherwise, you don't grow as a team, and you may actually have harbor some like lack of trust in that teammate. Or you just don't think they're good enough to be able to like get you to the next level. So I agree with you. Coaching staff should for sure be able to enable that conversation, but the players need to have that too.
Yeah. So it's hard being delusional, but it's unavoidable as a pro player. It really is.
I do respect it, but you do have to have like some confidence in ego, that is like for sure true. I found it really funny, like the way you described it. We're all delusional. That's pretty good.
Oh
I
my God.
mean, there's a difference. There, trust me when I say there's a very big difference. Like,
I mean, Peter used to talk about that, right? Where he'd be like, yeah, of course I think that we can beat this team, even if it was like the biggest gap ever, because he's like, because you have to believe that, because if you aren't able to believe that, then you've just like already lost the game essentially, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
I feel like the funniest situations, at least outside looking in, where I can tell those conversations are hard to have, is when the best player on the team is the one making some like consistent mistakes. Because oftentimes that best player on that team doesn't want to hear, like, if you're struggling too, probably doesn't want to hear from the other players that are making mistakes. Like, it's hard. I can understand that it's hard for a player that is like, let's say you had a really bad week. You fucked up consistently in a week or in a split. Now you're gonna give feedback to another player how they can improve. Like, that approaching that conversation is, I'm sure, difficult. But also accepting that feedback from players that are probably griefing is also really difficult. So that's when the coaching staff needs to be able to really take leadership and control of that situation.
You gotta have Jimmy Butler hop on the B team, and just like kick the A team's ass, right? That's how it's done. That's what you need in the building.
Well, I was gonna say, unless you're like absolutely the best player on your team, like by far, and you're playing really well, it's hard for you to have the audacity almost to kind of start critiquing players and influence, like, trying to improve them, because it's just not going to be received well. It's, in the back of the player's mind, it's always going to be, dude, like, focus on yourself, kind of, right? Like, it should be the coach's job. But sometimes, a player can, like, it is important to listen to your teammates if they have good feedback, right? I'm not saying you cannot give your teammates feedback if you're not the best player on the team. That's, absolutely not true. But it's just like the way you give the feedback and the type of feedback you give. So
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, caller. Anything you want to shout out here at the end, Dr. Nollie?
Yeah. So 2 years ago, I also got in here for the first time. Raz was on that show too. I made the prediction that TL was going to boom with their super team. I would also like to say that this year they're going to also not win anything.
But they don't have a super team.
Well, they should have spent more money then.
Thank you, Dr. Nollie, for the call.
Thanks,
and
guys.
We will catch you next time. All right. That is the show. Thank you, Sylv, XOXO on for the Prime, Akio, Pilgrim Panda, and Sparts. Thank you for the subs. Thank you so much to both Raz and Revenge for coming on for what is our longest episode, and I cannot remember how long. It was really informative. I mean, especially Revenge. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
I think there are many pro players, and I completely understand why. I do not fault them for this, who retire, announce their retirement, and then just piece the fuck out. Like no retirement interview, no appearances, no explanation. They're just like, I'm out. I had a good time, but time to move on, et cetera, et cetera. But it does make me really appreciate it because, like, you are in a position now where you can say things that you couldn't say in the past. And I think you have always been somebody who's been willing to talk about more than just what happened in that last game. And so it is great to have you on, and I'm going to miss having you as a person who I can interview and make content with. And like, I've been doing this for so long, and it's so rare that there are players like yourself that I can have these really great episodes with or these really great interviews with. So for me, I will say, I truly am going to miss having you around to do shows like this, to have content and conversations and stuff. And even you and I have had many conversations behind the scenes as well. And I don't know, you have to move out to California and become my doctor so that we can continue to do that type of thing. So
Can't share those
thank you for
conversations,
that.
though.
Yeah.
No, I really, again, guys, I really appreciate it. Even for just having me on the show, even with, even though I'm retiring. I mean, a big part of, even before I was a pro player, I watched a lot of your content, Travis, and it made me, as a fan, happy to hear pros talk about their lives and pros talk about, how they're feeling and even just any insights from pros. As a fan, I love that. So that's all I ever wanted to give back to you guys as fans as well through Travis. So I appreciate you for dedicating, a large part of your life to this and continuing to do so, even with the turmoil and everything. It's really nice that there's this venue for players, and yeah, even for myself, all my 4 or 5 years of being a pro player. So
Thank you.
thank you guys again.
Yeah.
And I want to come out and say, the one thing I love about Revenge, and I mean, every player is going to, every player and every person within the community is, of course, going to love the scene. But being able to give back to the scene, I think, is really something that depends person to person. Revenge is somebody that will, if he sees a fan, will have, pretty long, extended conversations with the fan. Or, is, when I hear from players that have played with him, will always talk him up as, being someone who's been positive or, team leader. Or willing to help the team outside of the game. So that's been another one. A third one too is just being able to give feedback. Not he's just somebody who cares so much that the amount of time I've heard him either give feedback to the players or give feedback to us when he was on. I remember, I think this was playoffs, right? Last year. The fact that you gave feedback to us about what you view as to make the broadcast better. He wants shit to improve. He cares a lot. And I think it sucks that, he's put in the position that he is in. But honestly, for the long term, it sounds better that it's going to be Dr. Revenge. And even though I may be Canadian, if I do stay in America, I'm expecting a discount, sir. So
Good luck with that insurance on
Yeah.
that one,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Raz. I appreciate it.
Well, let's go around the horn really quickly, do shout-outs for ourselves. Cubby, anything you want to say here at the end? Anything that you want to plug?
No, shout outs to these guys. Obviously, fun to see Raz do good work week in and week out with LCS. Thanks for joining us, man. And then also Revenge, gonna miss you a lot. Echo a lot of the same sentiments as Raz and Travis. I know that we didn't, spend quite as much time together, but I appreciated the coffees we were able to sneak in here and there. It was always fun to chat, and
of course,
definitely, I always appreciated your mindset. I definitely I do my job because I tried to compete at some point, like collegiately, right? I got about as close as I can get without, being in challengers or like doing the LCS thing. But I always really respected people that I felt like had the right mindset and approach to like how to go about competing this competitively day in and day out. And everything that you talked about in like terms of like the stress that you go through, but like what you gave for this is why you were good. And that's why you're going to be good at whatever's next for you too. And I know you know that, but yeah, I'm going to miss seeing you do this thing. And yeah, thanks for being candid with us about a lot of your thoughts on the scene. So it ended up being fun.
Thanks so much.
Raz, where can people find you? Anything you want to plug?
RazLOL on Twitter. Why did I almost forget that? Oh, it's because I almost told myself it's X. Or RazLOL on Twitch. So Twitch, Twitter, you can find me on both. And Instagram actually, but it's RazLOL_. But that's good.
On my end, I'm going to try to make sure that there's still content coming out this week and next week, even though, and I guess the week after, even though it's a kind of a drought on the LCS side. So we'll see what we can drum up here at TGI. We'll have next week an episode with the Golden Guardians coaches and their general manager to talk about all sorts of cool stuff. It's the first time we'll ever have 3 guests on the show all at once, I think. I guess we've done a lot of these episodes. It's hard to tell. But we will see how that goes. I think it's going to be awesome. Revenge, where could people find you? Are you going to be streaming? Like, are you just going to disappear forever? What's the plan?
So, as I said in my post, I may announce some exciting things in the future, like where I may go to school. Depending on all of that, I may get into content creation as like someone in university and going into medical school and all that stuff. I am really considering it. I want to just see how I reacclimate back into heading into university. So I just, that's going to be the big thing for me. But you guys can always follow me on Twitter. It's just Revenge League. Or X, I guess. I mean, yeah, I don't even.
It's Twitter. It's fine.
Yeah. So you guys can follow me there. That's probably where I'll be most active for now. And if I do stream, I will be posting it on there and stuff like that. So yeah, again, thank you guys so much. All of the nice messages in chat. I'm reading all of them. I really appreciate it. It's been really nice coming on these shows and just hearing your guys' takes as well. Even the callers. Like, thank you guys. It was really. I'm glad you guys took it out of me. Took some of the stuff out of me. So yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. All right, everyone. That's Hotline League. We'll see you all next Monday for an episode with the 100T staff. And until then, stay safe and have a good week.